3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Wednesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, always streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. Nick Harris, who covers the Cowboys for the FW Star Telegram. He's going to be joining us coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time today. And at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific, Ryan Hot Take Hickey will join us in studio. Now, I thought Hickey was going to be able to let the Notre Dame loss, in his case, or the Penn State loss to Notre Dame out of his system for another week before he had to dress up as a leprechaun. But I was a good guy here. I did not make Hickey, who lost the bet to me, which, tell me another day that ends in Y. I was not going to make Hickey purchase his own leprechaun outfit. So I got a little Amazon order in. I thought it wasn't going to arrive until Thursday. And I got a little note from my doorman that I had a package this morning. And there was the leprechaun suit. So I texted Hickey a few moments ago, and I told him, "Are you ready to pay off your bet today? I have your leprechaun suit." He wrote back, "No." So he is not ready to pay off the bet, but it's not like he has much of a choice. Unless if he wants me to show up to his door and break off his kneecaps, he will pay off that bet today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you tune into the YouTube portion of our show, the YouTube stream for that. So I got to start off with the Pittsburgh Steelers today, because I read a report last night from Mark Cabali, who does a really great job, longtime Steelers reporter, now is a Steelers correspondent for the Pat McAfee Show, and also works on one of our RDC stations, 93.7 The Fan. And in this report, it had this paragraph. Reports surfaced during the year that offensive coordinator Arthur Smith preferred Justin Fields over Russell Wilson, but that was never substantiated. Still, despite Wilson and Smith spending countless hours together after the typical workday watching film and publicly joking about it, a team source recently said that Wilson and Smith did not have a very good working relationship, but fought through their differences as best as they could. So a few things to unpack here. Number one, I could see why Arthur Smith, logically, would rather have Justin Fields over Russell Wilson. Because if you look at the state of the Steelers, Russell Wilson was not going to be their franchise quarterback. Russell Wilson was I guess you could say, respected veteran, even though it got really ugly in Denver, that was in that locker room, arguably a Hall of Famer and a Super Bowl champion, but he was not perceived to be the Russell Wilson that a lot of us loved in Seattle. So Russell Wilson gets there. It's perceived to be his team. I was even told by a source when Russell Wilson got there, there was not even going to be a quarterback competition between Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett. Shortly after Russell Wilson gets there, Kenny Pickett gets traded, and then the next domino to fall, which no one saw coming, was boom, the Steelers are going to pull off a deal for Justin Fields. And once Justin Fields got there, a lot of us shared this belief of, I don't even really want to see Russell Wilson. Because Russell Wilson is far from the days of being great, and there was still that intrigue and that curiosity factor of, hey, Justin Fields, we think the reason why he didn't work in Chicago, even though he had to get things right on his own, and he does have to shoulder some blame for that. But the majority of the reasons why it did not work in Chicago goes back to the incompetence of the Bears organization. So there was a level of intrigue where personally, I preferred to see Justin Fields playing over Russell Wilson. Now, with that being said, pushing a sled, which I don't know why he was, Russell Wilson got hurt because Mike Tomlin was going to be loyal to Russell Wilson, even though he had a QB competition. And I think Mike Tomlin respected the fact of what Russell Wilson did, so he was going to make him the week one starter. Now, we didn't see this lingering issue from pushing a sled with Russell Wilson that knocked him out early in the season. And Justin Fields was playing well, and maybe not individually playing great, but the team was playing well. And even through winning games, Mike Tomlin eventually said, okay, I'm going back to Russell Wilson. Now, I can't say it didn't work. It depends what your definition of working is to the fact of did it work really well. But the Steelers made the postseason, so Russell Wilson was good enough to make the postseason with the good foundation when he was taking over with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But when push came to shove, the Steelers have never elevated from what they've been the last few years. Where you look at the Steelers, they win 9 to 12 games, come postseason time, they get in, and then they're out. And they don't advance to the next weekend. And they don't win a game. They haven't won a playoff game, we know this, since January of 2017. So based off that, even though I acknowledge that Russell Wilson worked in Pittsburgh this year, if you were telling me that was going to be the end result, and you can't do it this way, but now we can, that's the beauty of radio. If you were to tell me that the end result would have been down the stretch, the Steelers would have lost games to the Baltimore Ravens, they would have lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, any big game they played in that last month of the season, they would have lost, and they still would have made the postseason, they would have gone home in the first round. I would have said I would have rather seen what the ceiling could have been with Justin Fields, whether you think Justin Fields is a franchise quarterback or not. But with all that being said, and I guess ego should never surprise me, especially in the NFL, how Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson couldn't get on the same page at times this year, that's ridiculous. Because look at where both of those guys are at in their career. Russell Wilson is struggling to stay in the league. And then you look at Arthur Smith, I don't know. And don't give me this bull crap that, the Bears are just doing their due diligence and the Jets are just doing their due diligence. You have to interview Arthur Smith to become a head coach? Look at what Arthur Smith did in Atlanta. 7-10, 7-10, 7-10. And in his final season in Atlanta, he tried to make Desmond Ridder a franchise quarterback when he had Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, and Bijan Robinson only had 16 touches per game. It was football malpractice. And it ultimately got him fired in Atlanta. And then he goes to Pittsburgh, and it wasn't as if anyone was intimidated by the Pittsburgh Steelers offense this year. So I don't understand why the Bears or the Jets are interviewing Arthur Smith. And if they hire Arthur Smith, either Chicago or the Jets, it is the definition of incompetent organizations making incompetent decisions. I would not hire Arthur Smith, hot take of the day, to be my head football coach. I wouldn't even waste my time interviewing him. Maybe 3-4 years from now, if he redefines his career, but this soon, I think both those teams would be out of their minds. But to get to the Kabali report, and I'm going to assume that Arthur Smith doesn't get a head coaching job, the fact that Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson both had egos and they couldn't get on the same page and they had not a smooth relationship, at least Russ, there's times he comes off as tone deaf, but at least Russ could make the case that he's a Hall of Famer and he's a Super Bowl champion, even though he hasn't been either one of those people in a long time. For Arthur Smith, what's your claim to fame? You did a nice job in Tennessee and then you were 7-10 as a head coach? Like, geez Louise. So the fact that those two guys couldn't get along, you're now Mike Tomlin, and you got to make a choice here. Do you want to bring back Russell Wilson, or do you want to bring back Arthur Smith? And now that choice may be made for you, because maybe, just maybe, the Bears and the Jets are dumb enough to hire Arthur Smith, and then you're looking for a new offensive coordinator. But quite frankly, I would prefer neither. I think you could do better at the offensive coordinating position than Arthur Smith. And then you look at Russell Wilson. Am I dying for him to come back in Pittsburgh? Like, if you said to me, Zach, you could have Justin Fields or Russell Wilson back next year on a 1-year deal and you're paying both pretty much next to nothing, I'd rather have Justin Fields. Because even though I don't think Justin Fields will be a great quarterback, there is at least an unknown of what Justin Fields is. At this stage of his career, Russell Wilson, he's on the 18th tee box. He just hit his tee shot. I can't even say it hit the fairway. It's in the rough. And he's now searching for his ball. And he's not going to be on that 18th hole that much longer before he walks into the clubhouse. But yesterday, Zach Rosenblatt joined us from The Athletic. And he said he's increasingly getting intrigued by the possibility of Aaron Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let me just acknowledge something. I think it was on Monday when we were talking about the Steelers. I said, if you ask me Rodgers, Fields, or Wilson, who would you want as your starting QB? I believe I said Justin Fields just because I know what Russell Wilson is at this stage of his career. Rodgers probably only going to be 1 year. And at least let me just see what Fields could be over the course of the season. But with Mike Tomlin still there, and if they gave up on Justin Fields when he was having some level of success, what makes me think that Justin Fields is going to be the starter next year in Pittsburgh? If they couldn't believe in him this year, when things were going well out of the gate, why would you then bring him back and make him your starting quarterback next year? So if you ask me, hey, Zach, Rodgers, Fields, or Wilson in Pittsburgh next year, I would actually, considering that Tomlin is the coach and operating under that parameter, I would go with Aaron Rodgers, because then it also means in all likelihood you're getting Davante Adams. And if you could pair up Pickens with Adams, and I'll see if they bring back Najee Harris, and you put Aaron Rodgers back there, do I anticipate that the Steelers win a playoff game? No. I don't. Can I rule it out with 100% certainty? No, I can't either. So that would at least be intriguing to me if the Jets don't bring back Rodgers, which I don't think they will. I don't. I think Rodgers is donezo with the Jets, Jets. And then Aaron could retire, but if he does want to play, where else are you going? And the Steelers, they're not a bad situation because you're not going there thinking you're going to win a Super Bowl. I get that. But there's no floor with the Steelers. Now, the ceiling isn't what you would expect the ceiling to be, but they're right in the middle of a 9 to 11 win team each and every year, and they show up in the postseason and they go home. But for Aaron Rodgers, if you want to end your career on the high note, you go to Pittsburgh where it's pretty much dummy-proof to get into the postseason. You find a way to win a playoff game there, that's a nice way to go out in your career. So personally, I would prefer Justin Fields to be the starter there next year. But with Mike Tomlin giving up on Justin Fields this year to go to Russell Wilson, when his offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, also preferred Justin Fields over Russell Wilson, I just don't anticipate and envision this scenario where Justin Fields is going to be the starting quarterback. And I could see Pittsburgh making a move and bringing in not only Aaron Rodgers, but also Davante Adams as well. Stu, I'll just ask you this. If it was between Fields or Wilson this year, for this upcoming year, forget Rodgers for a second, what do you think the Steelers ultimately end up doing if they had to pick between Justin Fields or Russell Wilson?
I think the Russell Wilson era in Pittsburgh is done. I think it's going to be someone else. I think Fields would be the more likely candidate at this point.
Yeah, the only part I struggle with is, and hey, I just said it, I'd rather see Fields over Wilson. But if they gave up on him when they gave up on him, what makes me think that they're going to go back to him now? Because I understand that maybe Mike Tomlin felt as if he owed it to Russell Wilson. And then Russ you couldn't delay that he was still banged up. He was healthy enough to play. But they were in a good spot. Now, it didn't impact them in terms of the season went to you-know-what. But Russell Wilson didn't advance them forward. So maybe that's the argument. Hey, we gave it to Russ. Justin did some good things. Now let's get Russ out of there and fully go to Justin Fields. Maybe that's the way that you do it. But that's the part with me that I still can't wrap my head around is the Mike Tomlin part of it. Because ultimately he makes the decisions in Pittsburgh. And if you gave up on Justin Fields or you gave up on him this year, why would I fully anticipate that he's going to be your guy next year? So that's where I'm at the whole thing. Would you bring in Rodgers? If I then threw in, hey, Stu, you're the GM, Fields, Wilson, Rodgers, what would you do?
I'd go for Rodgers.
Yeah.
Just even if it's for 1 year, max 2 years, probably 1 year, I would try it out, see how it is.
Yeah, because in all likelihood, are Fields or Wilson winning a playoff game? Probably not. Even though Aaron hasn't been in the postseason in a few years, if Aaron is healthy and you put him in a stable situation like Pittsburgh, which say what you want about Pittsburgh, it's stable because they become boring and you just know what to expect. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibilities for him to win a playoff game there. But that's what the Steelers have become. Which quarterback that we know isn't the guy could get there to maybe win them a playoff game. And that's pretty sad when you look back at it. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Who do you think will be the Steelers quarterback next year? 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Quinn Ewers throws up the deuces to Texas. He also throws up the deuces to college football. He's off to the NFL. Is that the right decision? I'll give you my answer next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
We'll chat it up with Cowboys writer Nick Harris at 4:20 p.m. Eastern time today. So an hour from now, we'll get his thoughts on who is going to replace Mike McCarthy as the drama Dallas choking Cowboys head coach. Ryan Hot Take Hickey, he will be dressed up as a leprechaun, and he'll join us in studio at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Stu, I got to run something by you. And this is going to be a big moment in our working relationship to kind of see how I view you as just a human being.
Ranch over blue cheese.
No. That has already been a big demerit. Stu went from a 10 in my book to about a 9.1, and I think that was me being benevolent. Quite frankly, we should have found someone else to sit in your chair once you said that you were a ranch over blue cheese guy. But that's fine. You know, everyone could have just something weird happen to them one time. If it happens again, depending on how you answer this question, then there's a pattern. That's strike two, and then the next strike, you would be out of here. And I go by the baseball system. So I was doing my weekly spot today on Hockman and Crowder with Mark Hockman, Channing Crowder, and Alejandro Solana. And their producer, Alejandro Solana, told me a story how he spent $18 on a burrito yesterday. And when he got the burrito and got into the studio, he took a bite out of the burrito and he got a hair right away. Now, you spent $18 on a burrito. You're hungry. You take your first bite, there's a hair. So he opens up the burrito. He inspects the rest of the burrito. No hair. Would you still eat the burrito? Just one.
Oh, my God. Absolutely not. Of course not.
Thank you.
I didn't know that was a question. I thought this was going to be like, would you get your money back type of thing, not would you eat it?
So that's what I said. And he said, well, I already left where I got the burrito from. So I go, okay, you spent $18 on things before that have not lived up to your expectations. You just toss out the burrito and go downstairs in the lobby of your office and you get something else. That's what I would have done. He ate the burrito. He ate the full burrito. It was absolutely disgusting when I was sitting there in a guest spot via Zoom, and I am just making the most grotesque faces in the world. Then Channing Crowder revealed this to me. And I don't know what's up with this show. And I love Channing. But Channing told me he was once at a restaurant, and they gave him a bread basket, and in the bread basket was a roach. Now, if I'm sitting at a restaurant, Stu, and let's say they bring out my rigatoni bolognese, let's just say, and there's a hair in the rigatoni bolognese, I'm not leaving the restaurant, but I'm saying, hey, not for nothing, there's a hair in this bolognese. Make me a new one and make sure that there's no hair in the bolognese, okay? If there's a roach in the bread basket, that to me, Stu, is you get up and you walk out. I'm not playing around with a roach if you bring it with a food item onto the table.
Yeah, that's a little more different than like a piece of hair falling out of someone's head. A roach is like cleanliness, and yeah, that's terrible. I'm with you. I would leave too. Because
if it's a hair, maybe it was the waiter or the waitress bringing it over, it falls off their arm, or it falls off their cabeza and goes right into the pasta. It happens. Maybe the guy in the kitchen or the gal in the kitchen doesn't have their hair in one of those nettings, and they allowed a loose hair to get in. Like, it doesn't mean you have an unsanitary kitchen if a hair gets in. But a roach? That's disgusting. All righty, Quinn Ewers, by the way. No transition there. Quinn Ewers, he's going to the NFL. I can't say I'm surprised by this because we all knew that he was leaving Texas. It was Arch Manning's time. Arch Manning was going to be their starting quarterback next year. You could not delay the Arch Manning era another year because now Arch Manning's already in year 3 of eligibility when next season does start. So you can't have another season where Arch Manning is on the bench. First year, Malik Murphy was in front of him. This year, he was the backup, got to start those 2 games when Quinn Ewers got hurt, and you've seen some packages for Arch Manning this year. So now this is Arch Manning's time at Texas. I will get to if Quinn Ewers made the right decision in just a second. But the legacy of Quinn Ewers at Texas is fascinating. Now, I know the way that I view him, but Stu, when you think of Quinn Ewers at Texas, what do you think when you look back at the 2 years 3 years that he was the quarterback of that institution?
Decent career, which I think could have been a lot better. And the other thing is, like, especially a lot this year, and even I guess a little last year, as good as he is, it was always like, okay, when is Arch coming? I think that for me was always like, I want to see Arch play more.
So Quinn Ewers is someone that, like, when you're at a wedding, right, and they're bringing around the appetizers in the cocktail hour. What's your favorite appetizer in a cocktail hour? I think it's fairly obvious.
I would probably say like some type of a slider.
Okay, so you're a slider guy. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm a pig in the blanket guy. If I'm at a wedding, where are the pigs in the blanket? You need to have pigs in the blanket for the night to be a good affair, okay? If you don't have a little pig in the blanket, your wedding sucks, all right? It's 1,000% true. Good weddings have pigs in the blanket. So let's say the first thing that comes out is, I don't know, give me like an average appetizer stew. Something that you would eat, but it's not like you're loving it.
I would say some kind of like chicken, not like a chicken nugget, but maybe like a chicken finger or something like that. Just something very basic.
All right, so like a chicken finger comes out maybe in like a nice little dipping sauce. All right, so you take the chicken finger, but you go, I'm going to eat it, I'm going to enjoy it. But you're waiting for the better appetizer to come out. You're waiting for your slider. You're waiting for your pig in the blanket, right? Now, the chicken finger could still be good and could end up being the best appetizer if the other appetizers don't come out. And there have been those weddings where I'm not going to shame anybody and mention anybody's name, but there have been those weddings where I'm at where the first plate comes out and you get the appetizer. You go, okay, that's good finger-picking food I like. And you go, all right, buddy, make sure you bring the pigs in the blanket to me. You find me, you bring me my pig in the blanket. And when the pig in the blanket never comes out, it's a major letdown. And that's kind of what Quinn Ewers is to me. And it's wild to say that because look how low the standard was for Texas for years. How many times did Texas become the national punchline joke? Not as bad as some other places where we would just say, is Texas back? You know, Texas, are they back? And then you had Sam Ellinger with that moment, we're back. And look at what Quinn Ewers did. And this is the legacy for me. And I think the legacy of Quinn Ewers, if Arch Manning is all that, could actually age better through the years. But Quinn Ewers was the appetizer, the okay appetizer at the wedding. But now we got to see what the next step is for Texas. Like, Quinn Ewers has brought stability back to Texas. He won a Big 12 championship, made the college football playoff. This past year, inaugural season in the SEC, Quinn Ewers in the SEC championship game. You know, Quinn Ewers won a playoff game, two playoff games. When you look back at them taking down Clemson, and then the following week in that really fun game, taking down Arizona State, that throw on 4th and 13, which Arizona State was about to get to the semifinal. Quinn Ewers said, not so fast, my friend. And he put the ball in the end zone, and they got the touchdown on that very first play of their following drive. You know, that to me is a crazy successful career for Quinn Ewers. But when Quinn Ewers was there, we didn't appreciate him. We were always waiting, Arch Manning. We're waiting for Arch in the wing. You know, let's go to Arch, let's go to Arch, let's go to Arch. We talked more, quite frankly, about Arch Manning than Quinn Ewers when Quinn Ewers was winning a lot of football games and was having a lot of success at Texas. So I think it is a confusing legacy for Quinn Ewers, but it's one that ultimately will be appreciated through time. And it was one of those appetizers that you weren't really interested in when it came out, but then at the end of the night, since other things may or may not have gone all that well, you're like, that appetizer that I had, that at first I wasn't in love with, it was pretty damn good. And maybe you start missing the appetizer. But I hope that Arch Manning turns out to be all that. And if he does, I do think that you will give some credit to Quinn Ewers for laying that foundation and bringing stability back to Texas. But with all that being said, I did think that Quinn Ewers made the wrong decision today. Not to leave Texas. He had to leave Texas. He was not going to be their starting quarterback next year. But I would have gone back into the transfer portal. And I would have elected to transfer. You know, Miami's off the board now with Carson Beck. And I read today that Georgia wanted Carson Beck back, actually. And I guess Carson Beck said thanks, but no thanks. And you know who also, I was reading this via On3. I thought this was a fake report at first, but then I clicked it and went to On3 and it was real. Alabama was even on the phone for Carson Beck. And Carson Beck ended up making, $3 or $4 million, hanging out with his girlfriend, one of the Cavender twins, and is now in Miami and is going to be their starting quarterback next season. But if I was Quinn Ewers, could you have gone to Notre Dame? Notre Dame with what they've been able to do, Sam Hartman, Riley Leonard. I can make the case that Quinn Ewers is a better quarterback than Riley Leonard or Sam Hartman. I could. Could he have gone to Ohio State with Will Howard now being done at the end of the year? I had more confidence in, I know they didn't win the game up against Will Howard, but I think Quinn Ewers is a better quarterback than Will Howard. Not that Quinn Ewers is sensational. Would Oregon have been interested with the way that they do their transfer portal with the last two guys that they brought in were Bo Nix and then also Dylan Gabriel? So I do think that Quinn Ewers would have been a commodity. And ultimately, maybe Quinn Ewers was just done with college. Because that's another thing. We look at these guys now, and I think it's going to be tough for us to kind of adjust to this new system with the transfer portal and now with these kids making money legally. A lot of us just say, go take the $3-4 million and go somewhere else. But a lot of these guys, they have dreams and aspirations of playing in the NFL. And I don't think Quinn Ewers is going to be a first-round pick. Could he? Yes. I don't think he will be. I would not use a first-round draft pick on him. But he's now done the college thing for, he was at Ohio State for a year. Then he was at Texas for 3. So that's pretty much your typical college career, even though he still had another year of eligibility. So maybe he was just done with college. And I love college. College was awesome. But after my senior year, I was like, I'm ready for the next stage in life. So maybe Quinn Ewers is just ready for that next stage in life and starting his professional career, even though he could have made more money staying in college for another year. And maybe long-term, he would have made even more money because if he would have improved his draft stock, who knows where he could have gone in this upcoming draft. So I look at Quinn Ewers personally. I would have gone to another college. I would have taken the money, but I can't crush him for what he did. But the more and more we talk about this, whether it's Jalen Milroe, whether it's Dylan Gabriel, whether it's Quinn Ewers, and we're trying to figure out, because, we are accustomed to 3, 4, 5 guys going in the first round of the draft. There are some years where 3, 4, 5 guys don't go in the first round of the draft that are quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett was the lone draft pick the year he was drafted in the first round by quarterbacks. That has happened before. We thought for sure 4 would go in the year that Will Levis was in the draft, right? Anthony Richardson went. You had Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, 3 early picks in the first 4 picks of the draft, if memory serves me right, and then Will Levis had to fall into the second round. So with the need for quarterbacks, could there be a third guy taken in the first round? Yes. Could there be a fourth? Yes, I guess. But if I was making a selection in the NFL draft, if I was one of these 32 teams and I had a first-round draft pick, and you didn't tell me what number the pick was, but you told me I could get Cam Ward, would you use a first-round pick on Cam Ward? I would say, yes, I have a first-round grade on him. If you tell me, hey, Shedeur Sanders, not telling you where, but you have a first-round pick, would you use it? Yes, I have a first-round grade on him. I don't have a first-round grade on Quinn Ewers. I don't have a first-round grade on Jalen Milroe. I don't have a first-round grade on Dylan Gabriel either. We've all been trying to figure out through the last month and a half, 2 months, when it's obvious, clear and obvious, that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders in some order are 1-2. Who's the third best guy? And there have been weeks where it's vacillated. There's been weeks where a guy is taking the baton, it's him, and then the next week it's somebody else. There is no obvious third guy right now. So could he still go the third guy in the first round? Absolutely. But are they worthy, in my opinion, of being a first-round pick? No. Quarterback-wise, only Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward this year. It is Zach Gelb Show, 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. How do you look back at the Quinn Ewers legacy at Texas? We'll update you some of the biggest storylines in the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief next. But first up, with the latest Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash, here is the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Here's a riddle sponsored by Progressive Insurance. What do your home and auto have in common? Progressive
protects them both. It was an easy riddle. Learn more at Progressive.com. Quinn Ewers may not be at the top of the quarterback class, but is among the best of this year's crop, and announced today that he is headed to the NFL draft. Ewers beat out Arch Manning for the starting job and went on to go 21-5 as the starter, leading the Longhorns to the last Big 12 title and 2 college football playoff appearances. At another interview for the Jets today, it was Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph who talked to them about their coaching vacancy, while the Cowboys coaching
You getting
staff,
a call act to be the next Jet coach?
might as well at this point, right? 87, I think, and counting at this point. But speaking of coaching interviews, Mike McCarthy, free to talk to anybody, and went in person today to Illinois to meet with the Bears, who also reportedly talked with Arthur Smith, the Steelers' offensive coordinator. In the NBA tonight, Houston takes its 4-game winning streak to Denver, which has also won 4 in a row, while the Bucks host the Magic after halting the Kings' 7-game winning streak last night. And this would be a playoff preview if the season ended today. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
And it's time to ask the pros. You, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stu, I'll put you on the hot seat real quickly. I didn't tell Stu I was going to do this. We got to news brief in just a moment. Just give me who you think right now you're leaning towards taking for divisional round weekend. And then also when I give you the matchup, what's your biggest question in the matchup so far entering the game? Chiefs-Texans.
I'll go with the Chiefs.
What's your biggest question going into this game?
If the Chiefs can actually provide some offense. Because if it's a kind of a struggle, as good as the Chiefs defense is, you never know. The Texans could, squeak in with a few touchdowns and then Casey will be in trouble. I don't expect that, though.
So I'm leading Chiefs as well. My biggest question is, can the Texans actually win a big game? Like last week, you beat the Chargers. It was wonderful. We looked at the Texans as a team that were ready to go take that next step this year. They haven't done so. They're in the same spot as last year. This is the ultimate kind of prove-it moment that you're not just a good team, but you can be a great team. Commanders-Lions.
I'm going to lean with the Lions here.
Yeah, I would lean with the Lions, too. The spread. It's the biggest spread of the weekend. 9.5. I kind of think that's everyone. The way I interpret this, from my dumb way that I interpret how these lines are made, which I know that they're not made this way, but this is just how I interpret it. I would lay that number right now. And here's why. I told you the Commanders went an outright last week. The Commanders are a fun story. People are going to look at that number and go, I'm getting 9.5 points. Would it shock you if the Lions win the game 30 to 20? Would it shock you whatsoever? Like, look at the Lions last year where in that divisional round game, I think it was Tampa Bay who came in. Now, that game was a little bit closer. It was 31 to 23. But, it was 31-17 with about 6 minutes to go in that game. So I could see that being similar where it's close. But I'm going to say 30 to 20 is what I feel right now in that one. What's your biggest question in Commanders and Lions? Just wondering.
I would say it's what can we expect from Jaden Daniels? Obviously, he was great against the Bucs, but the further you get as a rookie quarterback, it's obviously tougher. So I'm curious what kind of game he's going to have. Yeah,
mine's actually Goff. It's, Goff this is your time to go win a Super Bowl. And Daniels, I would rather have him as my quarterback this weekend than Goff. Doesn't mean that I think that Jared Goff is going to lose the game because the Lions have the better team, but just don't have that moment. Is Goff going to have one of those moments like he did in the Super Bowl a few years ago where up against the Patriots, that offense was awful and they only had 3 points? Rams-Eagles, where do you lean right now?
This one, I'm kind of back and forth on this one. I'll go with the Eagles, but I don't know if I feel great about it. Like, I could totally see the Rams winning this game, even in Philly.
I would take the Eagles right now. My biggest question, and let's see what your biggest question is.
How healthy is Hurts, and what are we going to get from Hurts?
That's the second part of that. What are we going to get from Jalen Hurts? Because that Rams defense, they've done a good job with Turner and Young, and also with Fisk and Verse, finding enough to replace Aaron Donald. You're not going to have one guy replace Aaron Donald, but they've done it by committee. Ravens and Bills, this is the one.
Yeah.
Where do you lean?
I'm leaning Bills.
So am I. What's your biggest question?
I think, obviously, on Monday, we're going to be talking about which quarterback in this game lost, because this, for whichever quarterback loses, it's going to probably be pretty bad.
Yeah.
I guess which quarterback can avoid the mistake, because that's probably what's going to be the difference, is which quarterback throws a bad interception.
Mine's a defense, because both these defenses this year, they've had some good moments and they've had some bad moments. And we're all going to focus on the quarterbacks, just which defense can make that game-changing play and find the way to force a fumble or get an interception like a few years ago when these two teams met and Lamar Jackson threw that ball to Taron Johnson and he took it to the house. All right, let's update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief right now.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
So there was that report before the Lions game from Jay Glazer that Kevin O'Connell, right, doesn't have a new contract. He has 1 year left on his deal after the season through 2025. Could there be a team that tries to trade for him? Could he try to be forcing his way out of Minnesota? Paul Allen the other day, who's the voice of the Vikings on K-Fan in Minnesota, he actually talked about those O'Connell rumors and the impact that it had on the team the last 2 weeks.
If that rumor came from Kevin O'Connell's agent, and I don't even know what his agent's name is, shame on him. And shame on everybody involved with that rumor if it came from there. Because it deflects attention from a game that day to secure a 1 seed for a 14-win team. And I don't know where this thing came from, man, but I just know what it was like being in Troy, Michigan at the team hotel when it popped, and then the conversations on the sideline before the game and the conversations after the game about the future of the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. When that thing popped up the way it did, why? Why at that time? If it came from anybody associated with Kevin O'Connell's camp, I'm just going to say it as bluntly as I can. Shame on you. That's selfish and it lacks self-awareness.
I don't see why Kevin O'Connell will put that out there. I don't see why the Vikings. Right? They couldn't have put that out there. Maybe it was Kevin O'Connell's agent, though. But how that impacted this team, no, it's because your quarterback wasn't good enough up against the Lions. And it was because your quarterback wasn't good enough against the Rams and midnight hit 12 for Cinderella Sam. That's the biggest reason. Those rumors should bring a team together. Right? Not separate a team and divide a team and be a reason why they couldn't get the job done. Here is Bill Belichick on the Let's Go podcast and Mike McCarthy leaving the Cowboys.
Mike's done a great job as he always has. His team's played hard, played competitively all the way through. I'm sure that there'll be interest from other organizations in talking to him, but that's the profession we're in, and I'm sure that they'll all move on. But for the Cowboys, they'll have to decide what kind of direction they want to go in, and I'm sure that they'll do what they feel is best for the organization.
Seems like the Cowboys are only, besides one option, are going to be interested in proven head coaches, whether that's college or the NFL. And you may not even have to be good. Like, just you've been a head coach before. The only one where I think the exception is Kellen Moore because they have a good understanding with him. We'll get more with Nick Harris, who covers the Cowboys, coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern time today when he's going to join us. Let's hear from Micah Parsons on Mike McCarthy not returning as the head coach of the Drama Dallas Choking Cowboys. This is The Edge with Micah Parsons.
obviously very sad because the relationships, we had with Coach McCarthy and everything he's done for our program, it is devastating. Coach Mike's a great father, coach, one of the most winningest coaches. Losing a great coach like Mike hurts, but it's going to be very interesting offseason, due to the free agents, the coaching. It's like, it's going to be a complete reset. So it's going to be a very interesting and challenging offseason. But listen, I trust my owner. I trust our GM. I trust Will McClay that we're going to make the right decisions. It's going to be challenging. These guys might have a different idea how they want to build the defense, the offense. So, there's no security in this league. And that's the dangerous part of the NFL. But when you're in them programs and those coaches draft you and they have an idea where they want you to fit and how they want you to play, and when they're all out, it's kind of like your SOL.
So the first question is going to be who's going to be the head coach. And then after that, the Cowboys need to be aggressive this offseason because they did nothing last year. They got to go improve this roster significantly. Let's go to Mike Tomlin. Just play the audio.
What's your message to any team that may reach out to the Steelers to gauge interest or availability in your services?
I have no message. Save your time.
So he is not interested.
Save your time.
That's a good one there from Mike Tomlin. I always find it funny when Mike Tomlin's job future comes up. Remember a few years ago, he got so annoyed at the reporter for asking if he'd be interested. I think it was USC. And he goes, does Andy Reid have to deal with a question like that? Oh, he got really annoyed. Here is LeBron James on the New Heights podcast. That's Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey's podcast. I'm playing pickup hoops with Michael Jordan when he was 16. I never knew that. Listen up.
I was 16 years old. I was sophomore in high school, and I was able to get on the court alongside. I was on the court with Michael Jordan, Antoine Walker, Penny Hardaway, Ron Artest, Michael Finley, all these guys.
Who guarded you?
Nobody. I was unguardable. Listen, I was 16. I was high school sophomore. Baby. I'm busting ass, man. I was nervous. I was nervous as hell, being out there with MJ and the rest of those guys. But I'm
Are you kidding me?
I was like, I'm about to go crazy, and I did, man.
That's awesome, man.
I did.
A part of that clip is just going to get taken, and people are going to be like, "This is why LeBron is better than Michael." See, they have played up against one another. Stu, do you believe this story?
I think it's maybe fabricated a little bit, but yeah.
Wouldn't we have heard, and maybe we have before, that LeBron James played a pickup basketball game when he was 16 against Michael Jordan and Antoine Walker and Penny Hardaway? I feel like we would have heard that before. Maybe it's out there and we just didn't see it. That's a possibility. But, is LeBron one to maybe stretch the truth a little bit and say he's done something that he hasn't? Yeah, as well. So let's get MJ doesn't speak to anybody. I'd say let's get MJ on the line. Maybe Penny Hardaway. I think he's still coaching at Memphis. Maybe we have to go to Memphis and talk to him. Or he said Antoine Walker, right? Comes on the show a bunch. Next time we got Antoine Walker on. Cap or no cap, Antoine? You remember playing pickup basketball with LeBron James and Michael Jordan was there? And just see if the story's true or not. Okay, we'll take a timeout when we come on back. 8 teams remaining in the postseason in the NFL. Which quarterback would you rather have the most? We'll do a little quarterback playoff draft next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Welcome on in on this Wednesday. We will chat about the drama Dallas choking Cowboys head coaching search. Nick Harris is going to join us, a Cowboys writer, coming up 20 minutes from now. Ryan Hot Take Hickey will pay off his bet, as his Penn State Nittany Lions did lose to Notre Dame. And he told me before the college football playoff did commence that Penn State is going to the national championship game. I told him they would not be in the national championship game. And the bet that we made was simply this, since he joins us each and every Wednesday. If Penn State makes it to the Natty, I would dress up as a Penn State Nittany Lion. If Penn State did not, then whoever they would lose to, he has to dress up as their mascot. So Hickey will be a leprechaun. The luck of the Irish for Ryan Hot Take Hickey. Where I guess, Stu, he's back in the college football fan transfer portal because he grew up as a Notre Dame fan. His walls were were what? He said Notre Dame blue and gold growing up as a kid.
With the Brady Quinn poster, yes.
Oh, he had a Brady Quinn fathead in his room, and probably watching Rudy each and every day. And then he left Penn State, or he left for Penn State, left Notre Dame at the altar when he went to Happy Valley. And then he saw his first love beat his current love. And now Notre Dame will be in the national championship game on Monday night. The Hickster is going, by the way, with me to Atlanta. He's still going. He put in for that credential. And he's going to the national championship game to watch Notre Dame, the team that beat his team, go up against Ohio State. And I'm going to be monitoring, because I think they're sitting Hickey and I next to one another. I'm going to be monitoring the emotions of Ryan Hot Take Hickey to see if Notre Dame is truly out of his system. Because I've heard him say Ohio State's going to win. And he's dangerously confident with Ohio State. Which, Stu, let's not touch the money on that one. Don't say anything. We don't want to jinx the jinx. But I am curious here on how much, since that was his team growing up, that those emotions will still be there. Like, for example, it's going to be tough for me to admit, because I'm a proud alumnus of Temple University. I grew up as a Villanova fan because my father was like the only Jew to ever go to Villanova. So my dad would take me to Villanova games as a kid, and I would always watch Villanova basketball with my dad. So when I was older, Villanova won 2 championships. The first one, I was happy, right? I was happy for my dad. I was still living in Philly. I think I graduated by then. Or maybe I was still in college. I forget when. But that Chris Jenkins shot was just so sick that it was like, oh my goodness gracious, I can't believe it. It was Oshefu to Arcidiacono on the flip to Chris Jenkins for the championship. Ooh, onions, double sauteed with Jim Nance and Bill Raftery. So I was happy then. But then the second go around, when Villanova won another national championship, that's when I was like, okay, enough of the Villanova Wildcats. So anyway, without further ado, give me a little NFL music right here, because we will get to a little draft. We got 8 quarterbacks remaining. The 8 quarterbacks: C.J. Stroud of the Houston Texans, some guy named Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs, Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders, Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions, Matthew Stafford of the LA Rams, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens, and Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. I felt like we should have Gus Johnson announce all those guys. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, the world famous Ohio State Buckeyes, Jack Sawyer. But still, we got 8 quarterbacks to draft. Which quarterback would you want leading your team for the postseason? I will, out of the kindness of my heart, give you the first selection.
You're always so kind. Why don't you take the first pick this time? You're always so kind giving me the first pick. I feel like you deserve the first pick here.
Zach Gelb, just a good guy. Some people may not say that. Some people on this network may have some mean things to say about me. Zach Gelb, nice guy. I am always a nice guy. I try to help everyone else around here, and I look out for the best interest of others. I put the people around me in front of me. And that was a big problem in my latest contract negotiations. Mayor Nick, Hurley, Olivero, Sotolano, they sat me down. I don't know if that sounds like the mafia. They sat me down. They were like, Zach, you got to focus on yourself a little bit more. You're so nice to everybody else. You just got to be only focused on Zach. I said, that's not me. I'm a team guy. I'm not showing up to the show with the book in my hand and reading on the sideline with the book and making it all about me. I'm not doing sit-ups in the driveway. I'm just trying to empower everybody around me and help them out to bring out the best version of themselves. So, Stu, I appreciate the offer. I'm not going to listen to management that told me to be more selfish, and I'm going to let you have the number 1 overall pick.
All right. I will go with Patrick Mahomes, who I still think is the best quarterback. I know he doesn't have the best stats this year, but for a playoffs and a playoff game, 1 game to win, I'm still going to pick Mahomes.
Did you all think about taking Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson?
Maybe a tiny bit, but in the end, it's just so hard to go against Mahomes.
Because Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are playing better right now. But That's hey, Mahomes has not 1, not 2, but 3 Super Bowl championships and 3 Super Bowl MVPs. And just last year, we kind of saw him and the Chiefs offense struggle. And then when push comes to shove and the lights are shining down the brightest, Patrick Mahomes found a way to get not 1, not 2, but 3 victories last year to hoist another Lombardi. So Patrick Mahomes is the right pick. All right, I'm going to do this in order. I'm going to take Josh Allen first. Now, Lamar Jackson, you could argue, has had the better season. I think Josh Allen's been more valuable to his team. No knock on Lamar. But in a weird way, Josh Allen gets the tiebreaker between these two in postseason success, because even though neither have been to a Super Bowl and both the farthest they have gone is an AFC Championship game, Josh Allen has statistically been the better quarterback than Lamar Jackson in the postseason. Now, after Josh Allen, I will gobble up Lamar Jackson because that's the MVP conversation right now. So Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, my first 2 selections. Stu goes with Patrick Mahomes. Who's your next pick?
Okay, my next pick, I would go with Matthew Stafford. I know he's a little older now, doesn't put up the same numbers that he once did, but you know, in a playoff game, I kind of like this Rams team. I like what he could still do. So there are a lot of question marks, starting with Stafford going all the way to number 8 on this list, but I think Stafford is the best bet in my opinion.
I haven't thought about it until now. I wonder if Matthew Stafford can solidify a future spot in the Hall of Fame this weekend. Because we used to say, oh, maybe if he gets another ring. But when he got that first ring, people kind of just realized, okay, Detroit and that whole situation, that was because of the incompetence of the organization. He was a really good quarterback there, and then he got a ring. And there was that argument, oh, Matthew Stafford, Hall of Fame quarterback. And I said, he's still got to go have a few more great seasons for me to put him in the elite category of being in the Hall of Fame. Now, this year, I could say they already overachieved with how ugly the start was to the season, and a lot of us not knowing what the Rams were going to be. Most of us thought the 49ers were clearly the best team in this division. But to see what Stafford has done, and they won that playoff game on Monday night, if you win 2 playoff games in 1 week and you go into Philadelphia and you beat maybe the best overall team in the postseason, that's a good enough moment, and that's a moment of praise where Matthew Stafford will never be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But maybe a win this weekend locks up, like, in his 6th or 7th or 5th, whatever year eligibility, a spot in the Hall of Fame. Because statistically, he's going to finish pretty high up there. Passing yards, passing touchdowns, has a Super Bowl championship. I don't know if he needs to win another Super Bowl to get to the Hall of Fame, but this could be a big moment of praise for Matthew Stafford if he could walk into Philadelphia and get the job done. I haven't thought about that until now. But Stu takes Matthew Stafford off the board. Who's your next quarterback?
Yeah, this is where it gets tough. I feel like you can almost go with any of these 4 guys. They're all pretty close together, in my opinion. But I'll go with Jalen Hurts. He's a guy that's been to a Super Bowl. I know Goff has as well, but that does feel like a long time ago. A guy that's been to the Super Bowl, a guy that can get it done on the ground. Again, I don't feel amazingly great about it, but give me Jalen Hurts here.
And also, Jalen Hurts has outplayed Patrick Mahomes, even though his team lost, in a Super Bowl. He was the best player on the field in that Super Bowl. So the quarterbacks I have left are Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels, and then CJ Stroud. Ooh, I got to pick 2. This is where it gets tricky. So CJ Stroud won a playoff game last year, lost in the second round. Won a playoff game this year. We'll see what he does in the second round. Jaden Daniels walked in to Tampa Bay last weekend, got a little divisional round doink to get into the divisional round. And then Jared Goff has been really damn good in Detroit. Oh, boy. This puts me in a mental just blender. Because I thought the world of CJ Stroud entering this year. And CJ Stroud did not have this great season. There were excuses there. And then he played in a masterful way in the second half up against the Chargers. Daniels may have the highest ceiling out of these 3 quarterbacks, and Goff's been the most consistent. So this time of the year, I'm looking for consistency. I'll take Jared Goff. I'll go Jared Goff 3. And then Daniels and Stroud. Oh, man. It's crazy. Because you guys know me. I love Jaden Daniels heading into the draft. I'll be completely honest. I did not love CJ Stroud going into the draft. Now, I talked to him at the Heisman Trophy presentation when he was a finalist, and he said, I'm more mobile than what people give me credit for, and I hope to put that on display soon. And he did that up against Georgia in that loss. But with all the talent that he had at Ohio State, he had good numbers, but themselves as a program, they were regressing, losing to Michigan, not winning the Big Ten championship game, and having to back their way into the college football playoff. So I had questions about Stroud, and he popped off last year. But Jaden Daniels, I remember when I talked to him at the Heisman Trophy, I said, hey, McAfee and Herbstreit were just talking about you. They said you're going to be the steal of the draft. Isn't that kind of disrespectful? Just because, yeah, it's a nice compliment, nice thing to say, but that means they don't expect you to go as high. And he ended up going as a second overall pick. I'm going to take Jaden Daniels here just because I think the ceiling is higher. And then, Stu, you don't get a selection here, but you end up going with C.J. Stroud. Isn't that crazy? What would you have gone? Would you have taken Goff and Daniels?
I would have gone Stroud, then Goff, then Daniels. Only because Daniels with the rookie, that's the only reason I rank him last out of these guys. I do agree it's the highest ceiling. I think last week's game from Stroud put him over Goff for me.
Okay.
Barely, though. Splitting hairs.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I wonder if we asked. Because, right, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, they're the three best quarterbacks in the league. Or three of the four, because you got to throw Burrow in, but Burrow's not in the postseason. I don't think anyone could knock Stu for Stafford. Like Mahomes 1, then I took Allen and Jackson 2, 3, then Stu took Stafford 4. I think for those final 4 spots, how people would rank them, Jalen Hurts, C.J. Stroud, Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels would be fascinating me. Because Jaden Daniels individually, I think, has the highest ceiling out of those 4 quarterbacks. Jared Goff, since going to Detroit, has proved everybody wrong, and he has been really damn good. Now can you go win a Super Bowl? C.J. Stroud was awesome in year 1, had a little bit of a sophomore slump in year 2, but you're still in the postseason, and you're still 60 minutes away from going to an AFC championship game. And then Jalen Hurts, I think some people will knock him because what's around him, Saquon, A.J., Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, who had a big game last weekend with that stiff arm, an unbelievable offensive line. But Jalen Hurts also, like I said, in a Super Bowl, individually outplayed Patrick Mahomes. So that's, who do you have the most confidence in heading into this weekend between these 4 quarterbacks? Jalen Hurts, C.J. Stroud, Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels. That's a fascinating question. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. You could always get at us on Instagram and Twitter at Zach Gelb. Listen in on one of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, SiriusXM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming on YouTube. And just, by the way, a programming note. If the information that's passed along to me is correct, which sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I think this one is correct, though. Starting Friday, we are moving SiriusXM channels from 158 to 375. So starting Friday, if all the information that I get is correct, which I have no reason to believe that it's not, starting Friday, channel 375 on SiriusXM is where you could find the entire 24/7 Infinity Sports Network lineup. All righty, Zach Gelb Show. We will take a break. When we come on back, Nick Harris covers the Dallas Cowboys. He threw out a bunch of names on who could get the next, who could be the next head coach of the drama Dallas choking Cowboys. We'll evaluate some of those options from Deion Sanders to John Gruden to Kellen Moore and a few in the college world as well, in addition to Deion Sanders, when we come on back next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys and who will replace Mike McCarthy. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's go down to Dallas. Welcome in Nick Harris, who covers the team for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He's kind enough to join us right now. Nick, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. How you been?
Man, it's been good. It's been a little hectic, but it's just another day covering this beat.
Well, typical Cowboy fashion, they wait until the last possible moment to say that McCarthy's not coming back. And then the first name to emerge, realistic or not, is Coach Prime and Deion Sanders. How realistic do you think it is that Coach Prime's going to team up with Jerry and be coaching the Cowboys come the fall of 2025?
Yeah, I don't think it's terribly realistic. I think this is a situation where Jerry had an idea in mind of talking to Deion at the very least and doing the due diligence of that. And he made the phone call, and he was the one that made the decision to go ahead and punch that phone number through and call Deion on Monday night. But as far as an interview or realistic candidate, I don't see Deion as that right now. Now, could he interview? It wouldn't surprise me, but I have a lot of sources back in the college realm and specifically at Colorado that say that he has told everybody that he's comfortable in Boulder, and everyone around him has the feeling that he is comfortable there. Now, granted, he was saying the same things at Jackson State, so you never know at Prime.
So going off of that, talking about your college sources and now knowing what you do covering the Cowboys, if it's not Coach Prime, and let's stay in the college game, who could be some other names then from college that could get a call from the Cowboys?
Yeah, I think one name to look at is Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. I think that could be a potential interest that could be sparked up. There's only a $4 million buyout from his contract with the Rebels. And he has experience in that building. His dad, Monty, was defensive coordinator in Dallas for 1 year, remained on staff for another season. There's a high affinity and a high respect between the Jones family and the Kiffins, and specifically as it pertains to Lane. As far as other college coaches, it's really kind of a scattershoot at that point. Does Steve Sarkisian make sense? He would have a $6 million buyout. Bill Belichick, he'd have a $10 million buyout. Now, Jerry Jones hasn't even shown that he's willing to pay head coaches. How about paying to get a head coach to pay the head coach? I don't know if he takes that step and wants to pay a buyout for a college guy. But if he did, the $4 million buyout with Lane Kiffin is obviously one to take a look at.
When do you actually think they came to the realization that McCarthy wasn't going to be back? Because some people have said, wow, you could have back-channeled to Bill when he threw UNC out there. Let's hold off before you take that UNC job, and we'll come calling in a month or two.
Well, you mentioned it at the top, Zach. The Cowboys, they wait until the last minute. You could look back at the CeeDee Lamb contract last year. They got that done after training camp. The Dak Prescott contract got done hours before they kicked off the season opener in a hotel room in Cleveland. So they wait until the very last moment. And as far as deciding on McCarthy, it was truly a decision that never really came. It was a situation where they were talking throughout last week just about the season and going through season grades, personnel, things of that nature. And then when it got to Monday afternoon and there were no substantial contract negotiations, Mike McCarthy walked out on it and was completely fine with his opportunity potentially in Chicago. He already knew in his mind that Chicago would be interested. It was a situation where they parted ways in that sense.
And the way that I interpreted this, going into the season, I thought he was a lame duck coach. And then right out of the gate, it looked like, okay, he was definitely going to be gone. And then he did a good job putting lipstick on the pig down the stretch. And I thought he was going to be back. But last week, when the report came out that the Bears were interested and the Cowboys denied that opportunity and that request, I said, if I'm McCarthy, what's the end game here? Maybe you get a 2-year extension. And that's why I started to think to myself, he's not going to be back. So if it came down to it, who said no first? I want this relationship to be over. I think it's McCarthy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it is, especially if you look at the length. I think that's an important aspect of this whole ordeal. It depends on what side you talk to, whether the McCarthy side or the Jones side. Whenever it starts talking about contract length being a big part of that split, one side will say one thing, the other side will say another. But at the end of the day, Mike McCarthy, 61 years old, he's got skins in this league. He's coached over 20 years in the NFL. He wants security long term, whether that be in a term of a 4 or 5 year contract. He wants that. And I think from the Cowboys perspective, they just signed Dak Prescott for 4 years. They just signed CeeDee Lamb for the next 4 years. They're going to have to sign Micah Parsons here in the coming months for what is anticipated to be about the next 5 years. Why not get a head coach that can line up with that timeline? And if they were even thinking about bringing McCarthy back, why not go ahead and match it up with that timeline? Say, hey, all right, this is your team, 4 or 5 years, go show us you could do it. And for them to potentially, and this is just speculation, give him a short-term deal, a 1 or a 2 year type extension, it just doesn't make sense on the surface. And I think McCarthy saw that, and that was the reason Monday's conclusion came to.
Nick Harris is here with us. Just getting back into the college names that we were talking about. What about Lincoln Riley, where there's been interest before? I don't think they should hire Lincoln Riley, to be clear, but I could see him maybe wanting to leave USC since that hasn't really popped off.
Yeah, there is respect between the Jones family and Lincoln Riley. They really loved him when he was at Oklahoma. Haven't heard a whole lot more there over the course of the last year, I would say, as far as their respect for him. And he honestly hasn't really been asked. But I think if you look at Lincoln Riley's track record, it started to decrease a little bit. There would be some more enticing names that I think you could get for a smaller buyout.
Would you say that Lane Kiffin, if it is a college coach, is the likeliest for the Cowboys?
I wouldn't necessarily say likeliest. That would just be the one that would not surprise me. And it's because of the respect that the Kiffins and the Joneses, they have for each other. Lane is always in the mix of some job every offseason, it feels like, whether it be another college job or an NFL job. And he plays with it on Twitter and he has fun with it and is still somehow able to recruit and get guys out of the portal. So, hey, if it works for him, why not? So that's just one that would not surprise me if some interest kicks up out of thin air.
I'll give you two big names that have both won a Super Bowl. Odds on John Gruden and odds on Pete Carroll.
Yeah, John Gruden, that's one that I think would need to be navigated with his lawsuit against the NFL, going back to his emails being leaked whenever he was fired from the Raiders. I don't see a reality where Jerry Jones hires a guy who is in the middle of a lawsuit against the NFL, but he has said before that he considers John Gruden a friend, and that has been since that lawsuit has been ongoing. I don't put a huge likelihood on that, but I think a phone call could be made there. With Pete Carroll, I think that's the best hire that the Cowboys can make right now. If you look at his ability to be a CEO and manage a defense from an oversight standpoint, but still have a defensive coordinator that can help run it day to day, you bring in a young OC that can help work the offense with Dak, not necessarily for Dak. And you have a guy in Pete Carroll who his last 12 years in Seattle, he had 11 winning seasons. And the one losing season didn't even come in the final year of his tenure in Seattle. So this is a guy who knows how to win and he knows how to build a staff. And I think that's most important because you look at him, yes, 74 years old. He doesn't have a whole lot of time left in this ordeal. If it's a 4-year type deal, I think he would set you up for the future even better moving forward with the staff that he would build.
If you had to take 3 guesses, not on who should get the job, but who will get the job, the early handicapping, who would be your 3 guesses right now?
3 guesses. I would go ahead and put Pete Carroll down just because it makes sense on the surface. They would need to figure out a power structure between Pete Carroll and the Joneses. Don't get me wrong. That would have to be figured out. Other 2, I think Aaron Glenn would be a guy that they bring in and talk to whenever the Lions season is done or they make a Super Bowl run. He played in Dallas for 2 years. They've really respected what Dan Campbell has built in Detroit, and Jerry has talked many a times about how he respects that entire organization, how they flipped it on its head. Aaron Glenn is a Texas native. There's a lot of things that make sense on the surface with Aaron Glenn. And then Kellen Moore. Now, there would be some questions about Kellen Moore. Can he command a locker room? Will guys respect his voice? Those are some questions that I think whenever he left Dallas that were definitely part of, the 2 splitting ways. It was certainly a 2 splitting ways, not a firing situation. But, from the Cowboys perspective, those were the concerns. But the desire for Kellen Moore is definitely in that building. And I'd be shocked if they don't wait around to at least interview him.
And I think he's going to get the job. Like, if that's my guess right now, I don't know if any other team would make him a head coach right now. I don't think they would. But that relationship, right? Jerry likes to be able to control a coach as well. It would remind me a lot similar to kind of Jason Garrett. How do you think the perception would be if they do hire Kellen Moore? Because this was a guy a few years ago, hot commodity. All you heard was Kellen Moore to be a head coach, and he's just bounced around from organization to organization as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, they would definitely need coaches on his staff that can still lay the law down because with the personnel that the Cowboys have, they would still need, an overwhelming presence to be able to, get them in line at times. And I think Dan Quinn did an awesome job as defensive coordinator in Dallas. But if I had to put, one potential negative on his tenure here, it was that he was a player's coach and he let guys get away with some things that other coaches wouldn't. And I think there was a little bit of a difference whenever Mike Zimmer took over and they had to get used to that style of coaching. Now, granted, he's not as brash as he was in his days in Minnesota, but he still does bring that fiery intensity. They would need a DC that can bring a similar type of intensity, whether that is Zimmer or somebody else.
We know that Jerry Jones loves a big personality player. Micah Parsons is a huge personality player. There has been a pushback a little bit on his podcast. I personally don't have a problem with it, but others do. Do you think there's any chance they move off of Micah Parsons and try to fish around to see what they can get back in a trade this offseason?
Man, to be 100% honest with you, Zach, I think if you had asked me this in training camp last year, I would have said, it wouldn't surprise me if they at least look at the possibility of it because there was concerns about his maturity. There was concerns about, him applying work ethic into the offseason. But I think he answered a lot of those questions this past year, really took a step forward as a leader in that locker room when guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and Dak Prescott went down. He became a voice in that locker room, and you could not have told me that would have happened when we were sitting there at training camp. I think think now they are very comfortable with signing Micah Parsons long-term. I think that happens. I think if you were maybe looking at, some other big contracts that they could potentially move off of, they would need to figure out how to either restructure or move off of the deal with their starting right tackle, Terrence Steele. That's certainly one that is looking rather large on the books. And then you look at Trayvon Diggs, now back-to-back years with devastating knee injuries. How do they factor that in with his $100 million contract? I think that's certainly one to look at too.
Nick Harris here with us for a few more moments. Fort Worth Star-Telegram does a great job covering the Dallas Cowboys. Jason Witten, that name has also emerged. They're not going to hire him as the next head coach, right?
No, I don't believe so, but it would surprise me if he's not on staff. It is a widespread expectation that he is going to be on staff in some capacity. Now, Jerry, he does these weekly radio hits twice a week, and there's a lot of things that are discussed in those, and it definitely makes my job unique as far as, covering an NFL team. But in those many, many interviews, he's been asked about Dan Campbell a few times, and every time Dan Campbell is brought up, almost every time, Jason Witten is brought up by Jerry, and in a sense that he would like to replicate that with Jason Witten potentially one day. He's called Jason Witten a guy that he thinks would be a great NFL head coach. He's won back-to-back state championships here at the Texas high school level. And now it's the private school level, but still a tough thing to do here in the state of Texas. He's done a really good job building that program, but the NFL is obviously a much different beast. And it's going to be interesting how Witten factors into those conversations. I think two other guys you could potentially look at, former players that could potentially be on a staff that the Joneses would like. You have Texas running backs coach Tashard Choice and Oklahoma running backs coach DeMarco Murray. One of those two guys, I think, will end up being your running backs coach in 2025.
The trade conversation is always fascinating. I don't think the Steelers are trading Mike Tomlin. Maybe Kevin O'Connell, who knows, with some of the things that have been said in the last 48 hours, but I think that's an overreaction, and I don't know how much substance is there in this negotiation games with him having a year left on his contract. You think Jerry will be calling around other teams to see if they're interested in trading their coach if it's a Tomlin or O'Connell?
I mean, knowing Jerry, he's certainly going to be looking to make a big splash here. I think it's going to be a long process. This is not something that's going to be quick, wrapped up in the next week. I think you're going to be hitting me up in about a month again, Zach, saying, "All right, what's the latest? What's going on? We had Senior Bowl. What's going on?" I think this is going to be an extensive process, but I think. I think moving forward, you could look at a potential of this being an extensive process. Jerry will look at all these candidates pretty heavily.
I got two more for you. Getting back to Belichick, I know that the buyout falls to $1 million on June 1st. Right now, it's $10 million. Like a year and a half ago, I thought Bill's next job would eventually be the Dallas Cowboys. You even heard Jerry before the season say he could work with Bill. What are the odds there? I don't think Bill's leaving UNC before coaching a game. I know what happened with the Jets 20 plus years ago, but do you think that could actually be a healthy relationship, Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick?
Yeah, that's another one. They would have to figure out the power structure. I'm not sure that can necessarily be a healthy relationship. It would take Bill giving up a lot of control that he's had throughout his NFL career. And you look at reasons why he didn't get an NFL job last cycle. It was because teams didn't want to give him as much control as he asked for. I don't think he's going to give up the control he has at North Carolina and the program that he's already starting to begin to build over there for coming back and taking a step back.
All righty, so you know Mike McCarthy, right? Covered in the last few years. The last thing I'll ask you here, Nick Harris does a great job covering the Cowboys for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. So I don't know what you've heard, but there's a reason why he's leaving, and right, it's the contract probably wasn't enough years, but he has to have an idea on where he's going to go next. The Bears have been thrown out there. The Saints have been thrown out there as well. Do you lean one team or another potentially for McCarthy when it comes to the Bears or the Saints?
Yeah, the Bears make the most sense, not only because they showed the public interest before that exclusive negotiating window was even done last week, but also his experience in the NFC North. He's a guy that knows how to beat the Bears too, and it's an opportunity to develop an offensive head coach with Caleb Williams and the offensive weapons that they're going to have there over the next few years. I give the Bears a slight edge, but don't discount New Orleans either. He was a coordinator there for 5 seasons back in the early 2000s. He's got experience there, and it wouldn't surprise me if Jacksonville kicks some interest around too.
All righty, he is Nick Harris. Does a great job covering the Cowboys. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, Nick Harris, FWST. Nick, appreciate the time. Good luck on what's probably going to be a long coaching search, like you said.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
You got it. Some interesting stuff there. Let's react to it on the other side, especially the 3 names that he gave as guesses on who would be the next head football coach of the Dallas Cowboys. It is the Zach Gelb Show. We'll take a timeout. We'll come on back. But first, here's the latest update with Ack.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, as expected, Quinn Ewers is entering the NFL draft as his time at Texas comes to an end after 2+ years as a starter, 2 appearances in the college football playoff, as well as a Big 12 title. The Cowboys have a coaching vacancy to fill, and the first known interview request, according to reports, is former Jets head coach Robert Saleh. He also met with the Jaguars regarding their vacancy. Former Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy met with the Bears today in person, and Chicago also talked with Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. Very quietly, the Rockets are one of the top 4 teams in the NBA at the moment. Houston goes for its 5th straight tonight in Denver after a 2-point win over the Grizzlies Thursday. Head coach Ime Udoka said winning these close games has been the difference this year.
Improved in that area. I think halfway or a third through the season last year, we had improved in that area as well. So our road record was a point of emphasis going into the year, and then winning close games that we had kind of given away.
The Rockets have had a lengthy time off after a winter storm postponed their game in Atlanta over the weekend. Denver also coming in with 4 straight victories. And the Celtics can't seem to gain any ground on the Cavaliers, who keep winning. The defending champs are in Toronto tonight to face the 9-31 Raptors, with Boston trailing Cleveland by 6 games for the top spot in the East. I'm Rich.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Could we start a little reporter fight? Can we? Zach Gelb here, Infinity Sports Network. We're just joined by Nick Harris, who covers the Cowboys on a daily basis. And Stu, correct? I heard that he thinks this is going to be a long process, that he wouldn't be surprised if a month goes by. Could you imagine? Post-Super Bowl, February 15th. You'd already have the game played on that Sunday. I think it's the 9th. And we still don't know who the next head coach is of the drama Dallas choking Cowboys. But that's what he said. He said it would not surprise him if it goes more than a month here with this coaching search.
That would be pretty incredible and pretty on brand for the Cowboys.
So Josina Anderson just put this out.
Uh-oh.
The Cowboys have already inquired about multiple head coach candidates and their schedules per league source. They are further along in this process than it currently feels to the public. Jerry Jones is not a rookie at this. So that's from Josina Anderson. I wonder if Odell Beckham Jr. was the source on this one. No, I just kid. I saw that Josina put out like a tweet the other day. We once, I don't want to say got in, a little bit got into it on the air. When Odell was departing in Cleveland, and I just didn't like the way that Odell went about it. And we had like a little back and forth, and I'm assuming that Odell has given her many stories through the years because she's a big defender of Odell Beckham Jr., who I don't think is properly portrayed to her credit, Josina Anderson, and some of the stuff that she says about him. But this idea, I saw a tweet from her. It was on Monday or Tuesday. She popped up on my timeline. And everyone pops up on your timeline now. It doesn't matter who you follow, you don't. And it was something about, it was when Deontay Johnson got released the other day. And she was like, well, I told people that they should have been interested in Odell Beckham Jr. And it was like, all righty, enough already with OBJ and trying to put him on a team in the year of what was 2024, now 2025. So we'll see who ends up being right there. Because, right, with the way that Josina says it, that gives off the indication that this thing is actually a lot further along than one would think. So a few reactions from Nick Harris. That was one, that he expects this to be a long process. The other one, the three names that he gave, because we talked right about a lot of names. Coach Prime, he brought up Lane Kiffin. We got into Pete Carroll, John Gruden, the possibility of Belichick leaving UNC at the altar and all that stuff. We got into the bevy of names that have been tossed out there. Even Jason Witten, where he said he expects him on staff, just not as the head coach. The three names, if I said you had to get three guesses on who will be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys, here were the three names. Pete Carroll, Aaron Glenn, and then Kellen Moore. So Kellen Moore, I think, is going to get the job. Like I said to Nick, I believe he's very similar to Jason Garrett, where I don't know if any other team is going to hire him as a head coach. The Cowboys would. there's no control issue there, where Jerry Jones only one time has kind of been willing to get out of the way, and that was for Bill Parcells. If Belichick was available, I think Jerry would have to get out of the way a little bit, but any other coach on the market, I don't think Jerry, who owns the team, is really surrendering too much power there and is kind of at least willing to dance for a year or two and give up this idea that he's going to be out of the way. So Kellen Moore kind of checks all those cowboy boxes where you could use drama with other people, right? Throw them into the search. You have this big, extensive search. Then you hire Kellen Moore. It's underwhelming, but he's familiar with the organization, has been there for a while, and it's someone that Jerry could control, right? He'd be a puppet for Jerry Jones. So Kellen Moore doesn't surprise me. I have not heard Aaron Glenn to the Cowboys. Now, we've heard Aaron Glenn to other teams. I think the two most popular teams right now for Aaron Glenn are the Saints and the Jets. Those are the two teams that are speculated the most. Now, you ask me, Aaron Glenn, would you rather coach the Cowboys, the Saints, or the Jets? I would say the Saints are 3 on that list. The Jets or the Cowboys? What disease would I rather have? I would say the Jets are 2 and the Cowboys are 1. Now, if I get hired by the Jets, I have to have a good relationship with the new general manager. We know in Dallas, Jerry is everything. So do you want to deal with all the bull crap that kind of McCarthy and Dak Prescott are now numb to, or were numb to for Mike McCarthy, where they were able to tune that out and just understand, okay, you got to let Jerry cook, let Jerry be Jerry. And you got to know that if you get the job. But the reason why I think I'd probably put the Cowboys in over the Jets may now have the better pound-for-pound roster. When you look at Sauce Gardner and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and Quentin Williams, but they don't have a quarterback. Like, I don't think Rodgers coming back. And even if Rodgers does come back, he's there for a year. And then you don't have a quarterback to turn to. Not that Dak is the belle of the ball, but at least you have Dak Prescott, who is, right, in the conversation of a top 10 quarterback in this league. Now, you got to improve the rest of the roster. You got CeeDee Lamb, you got Micah Parsons. You only, though, right, you could take a job 3 years, maybe at most. You can't expect much more than that. And sometimes you don't always get to 3 years. So I'd rather hit the ground running with a quarterback, even though I'm not the biggest Dak Prescott fan. So that's why if I was Aaron Glenn, I would go Cowboys 1, Jets 2, and then the Saints 3. What do you think of that order, by the way, Stu?
I would go exactly that order. I think because you have Dak, I know you have Jerry getting, in the middle of things, but
yeah,
I would rank it slightly higher. The Saints are definitely the third.
But then yet again, if it comes down to the owner, Woody Johnson is another meddling owner.
That's true.
And I know Woody Johnson's probably going to go join the Trump administration. Does anyone have any, as bad as Woody is, does anyone believe Christopher Johnson's the dude with what we saw last time Christopher Johnson was running the Jets? So I just think you know a little bit more of what you're getting into if you take the Cowboys job. Now, Pete Carroll. I think that would be the best. I kind of agree with Nick that would probably be the best hire that you could make. Because here's why. That's also realistic. Pete wants a job. Pete never wanted to leave the Seahawks. The Seahawks, in a nice way, said they were moving into a different position, blah, blah. They fired him. They fired him as the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. That's what happened. Everyone knows that. No matter how they tried to kind of put the bumpers up on it and make everything okay and a safe landing for Pete when they elected to move on from him as the head coach. But Pete wants back in. I don't know how much interest there is out there for Pete. Like, you've heard the teams that are interviewing him, but Arthur Smith's getting an interview, for crying out loud. Multiple interviews. So just because you're getting interviewed doesn't mean that you can get the job. But here's why I think Pete would be best for the Cowboys. It's a proven coach. It's a player-friendly coach. It is someone that is a big enough personality where maybe he could get Jerry Jones not to give him everything, but give him some things and take a little power away from Jerry Jones. And I think Pete, if you look at these other, like Kellen Moore or Pete Carroll, it's not even close, Pete Carroll. Aaron Glenn, hey, he's done a great job as defensive coordinator. maybe he is the next Dan Campbell, but we've seen a lot of hot shot coordinators, and I know Aaron Glenn is 52, and he played in the league, coached in the league. We've seen a lot of those guys not work out. So I think Pete brings you some more credibility. Pete does a good job with the quarterbacks everywhere he goes, USC and Seattle. And he's someone that I think would be best equipped to handle all the BS with that Jerry Jones just does bestow upon his organization. Like, I don't think John Gruden is coaching the NFL this year as a head coach. I don't. And I think Gruden's really starting to enjoy the Barstool stuff that he does. Now, he'll take a job in a second. We know that. These other retreads. I know Doug Peterson's won a Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to be Doug. I see that Robert's out in his interest. Like, why? What are we doing? So there's other names that are out there that have been head coaches before. I think Carroll is the one that is probably the most attractive. Now, Ben Johnson, let me tell you, he's not even going to take an interview with the Cowboys, I would imagine. I probably should have asked that to Nick, to be fair, just to see. But I think that's like you already know the answer to a question that you're asking. And I don't know, Stu. Ben Johnson, man, I told you yesterday I think he's ended up with the Raiders. He's starting to annoy me. Like, you could have been the coach of the Commanders last year. You could have the second overall pick. Now you have Caleb Williams staring you in the face, and I don't know if you're going to go there. Jacksonville looked like you wanted to go there. But now since Trent Baalke's still there, you're waiting to see what's going to happen. If he ends up taking the Raiders job, Stu, even though you would be elated, for all the hype and all the demands the last 2 years, what the heck are you doing? Going up against Mahomes and Andy. You're going up against Herbert and Harbaugh. You're going up against Peyton and Nix. And you don't have a quarterback, but you're just going there because you'd have all the power and you have all the control of the organization. He's starting to annoy me, Ben Johnson, where I'm getting sick of all the demands that are being made. And I would kind of hope that he goes, well, I hope he goes to the Raiders for you. But if it is the Raiders, that would be the ultimate WTF. Like, all this demands and all these perfect situations that you wanted, and you go to the Raiders where are nowhere close to winning. That's when that wouldn't make sense to me. But I think that's where he's going.
It's weird that he would give up on the chance of Jaden Daniels for the Raiders.
The Raiders. For maybe the chance to trade for Shedeur Sanders.
No quarterback on the roster, no draft pick to get a quarterback. I don't know.
A lot of coaches I talk to, right, that are coordinators that are young, up and coming, or guys that are head coaches and trying to become NFL head coaches, like, right, head coaches in college, they always say that A word. Alignment, 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 alignment. And you're never going to get that perfect situation. In theory, alignment's a good thing. But when you take a job just because it's so bare and, right, there's no pieces, but you basically get to pick the GM, yeah, it's nice in theory, but then people tend to forget that if you don't win, you could have the alignment. The owner could eventually come in and say, both you bozos are out. So you got to remember that. Ryan Hot Take Hickey will be dressed up as a leprechaun. What a tease. He joins us next. Loser!
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You know, I think the only time in the history of this network that I have lost a bet was when I did NFL picks up against Sean Marash. Ever since then, I have never lost a bet. And it's actually ironic. I did not do this by plan. I'm wearing my Nebraska Cornhuskers collared shirt that I had to wear as I was Matt Rule parking cars at Bob's Bar. But since then, I just realized, make bets with people that never win. And that's what I did, because before the college football playoff, Hot Take Hickey said, Penn State, they're going to the national championship game. Here come the Nets. Drew Aller, wonderful quarterback. James Franklin, he's the best. National championship game. And I said, Penn State's not going to the Natty. And we made a bet. And the bet was simply this. If Penn State got to the national championship game, Zach Gelb would have to dress up as a Penn State Nittany Lion. But, if Penn State lost prior to the national championship game, Ryan Hickey would have to dress up as the team that Penn State lost to, their mascot. And without further ado, we could put him up on camera. Here is, as a leprechaun, Ryan Hot Take Hickey. Your hat, by the way, looks like it has erectile dysfunction, if I'm just being honest.
Oh, I thought it looks like it's excited. The opposite of ED. It's pretty high.
I don't know. It looks a little limpy.
I don't. Well,
you know you could be in Wicked.
At least I don't have to paint my face green. So I guess that's the.
Have you seen Wicked? Did Lolly make you go see Wicked?
No. She's seen it, but I have not seen it.
No,
I've heard the soundtrack a million times, so I feel like I've seen it. But no, I've not actually seen the movie. I know the character.
Slow start, picks up in the middle, good ending. That would be my Zach Gelb review.
I did see Wicked as a play, so I don't have to say it was a movie.
Yeah, it's a little different, but
okay.
Yeah. No, it's,
I'll take your word for it.
You want to do a little Mad Dog Russo, a little gummy, and you go see the movie, I think you could enjoy it a little bit. But anyway, how you been since we've last seen you and we had the Penn State Lions lose the national championship game?
Since I saw you on Friday last, I have been better, but this kind of brings back some of the PTSD of that game, so still not great.
Yeah. What have you been doing to try to get your mind off of the game?
Try to avoid a lot of college football content, which is not easy.
Especially when you create a lot of college football content.
And essentially impossible. So I've been, this is the one time where working in sports sucks, to say the least.
Yeah, by the way,
sucks.
I need a good picture of you. Can you just turn to me so I can get a good picture of Ryan Hot Take Hickey dressed up as a leprechaun? Just come on, give a smile.
I'm smiling.
Right.
This is the best I can do. I'm not going to be happy.
All right, ready? Look at me. 1, 2, 3. There we go. You look miserable.
I feel miserable.
The only time you looked more miserable was after we basically berated you on the air and we played a montage for you with your wrong prediction. And then I made you stand next to Stu right after Stu's Notre Dame Fighting Irish won the semifinals to get to the national championship. You did not look happy in that photo.
I was not. I was still in a stunned disbelief state of mind at that point.
Well, last time you were here, we played you the montage and I gave you a donut. I was nice. I gave you donuts.
Sure. Yeah. Sugared me up.
I don't have any donuts this time, but I do have this for you.
It's the Hickey Hex.
We're going to make him sit through it again,
I don't know
folks.
how Notre Dame moves the ball offensively. I really don't. I've tried to look at it. Jeremiah Love's injured. He's gimping around in practice. If he can't run, I think Penn State showed you with how they're able to contain Ashton Genty. They could stop any rushing attack. And then if Riley Leonard has to throw the ball, he ain't beating anybody.
2nd and 8 for Leonard. Takes the shotgun snap, looking right, going to throw wide open. He's got Greathouse. Catches to the 30, cuts back in the 20. Jaden Greathouse is going to walk in to tie the game. What a throwing catch. 54 yards. Leonard to Greathouse. And Notre Dame strikes back with 4:38 to go
not even looking at me,
in
folks.
the Orange Bowl.
I think they won by double digits.
Give me the You cold think shoulder. they're winning by double
I
digits?
do. I feel really good. Dangerously good, actually.
How many points are you going by? You say double digits. That's
I think like 11. I say 27-16.
Quick snap for Aller, looking left. Can't get it out. Now pressure coming. Aller throws. Loose ball. Intercepted. Christian Gray picks it off at the 42-yard line. Notre Dame will get the ball back with 33 seconds left in the game. What a big-time pick from Christian Gray.
Is this the day? Finally, James Franklin breaks through and wins a big game? I think it is.
Mitch Jeter lines it up. He's ready. The Orange Bowl is on Mitch Jeter's leg. Good snap, good hold, kick on its way, and the kick is good! Yes! Mitch Jeter, with 7 seconds left, gives the Irish a lead, 27-24. Notre Dame is on the precipice.
I feel really good. Dangerously good, actually. Dangerously good, actually. Dangerously good, actually. Dangerously good, actually. Dangerously good, actually.
Hot Take Hickey strikes again.
I don't know why. The first time you were just in stunned disbelief when we played that for you, and you were purple. You turned purple.
It's hard to hear.
I think you were more mad this time.
No, not mad per se, but it still hurts a little bit, you know? I don't regret anything I said, but it sucks that it wasn't right.
Now we are going to the national championship game together.
That is correct.
I'm surprised you're going because I understand the career opportunity. It's awesome. You go to national championship game, you cover it, but you are a wounded, and I mean a wounded human being. And from a therapeutic standpoint, you're going to the game and you're going to have to watch Notre Dame, the team that just beat you, go up against Ohio State, who also beat you this year. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, not ideal, but, you know, I'm a grown adult. I've gotten over it. I'm going to move past. I'm not going to allow a loss to, like you said, take away a great career opportunity and go to an event I've never been to before. Mm-hmm. It's going to suck. I don't really, I'm not rooting for either team to win, so it's going to be tough to, sit there and watch one team celebrate, but I'm a pro, or going to try to be a pro.
Yeah.
Big difference.
I wonder if there's a moment. Now, the good thing when you go to the national championship game, the College Football Playoff Committee, the food is spectacular.
Okay.
They do it. The buffet that they had last year all throughout the game, the desserts. So you'll have some depression food there for you if it's the same as it was pretty much last year. The food was very good in Houston. Now,
okay.
Could you have a little bit of a food drop-off in Atlanta, but usually a gracious host city. So I think you'll have some good eats while you're there.
All right, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'm going to be monitoring something. I probably shouldn't tell you this.
Okay.
But you know how people will go before a game and scout their next opponent and things like that?
Well, some people do it legally, others do illegally.
Okay,
but
fine.
Yes.
You're still on that. That's fine.
No.
That's what losers do. They dwell in the past. It's fine.
Just saying, some teams want to follow the rules.
I'm going to be scouting you during the game. And I want to see how often you're cheering for Notre Dame, because right now you're not very fond of Notre Dame because they beat Penn State.
Correct.
But you did grow up with the Brady Quinn fathead. You grew up with a blue and gold wall coloring. You grew up as a Notre Dame fan, so part of you has to be rooting for Notre Dame to win this national championship.
So I have a lot of family members that are still huge Notre Dame fans. So obviously,
you want them to be happy.
I want them to be happy, but I think when it comes down to it, I will be rooting for myself to be right. I'm picking Ohio State. I'm not rooting for Ohio State because I don't really hate Ohio State maybe the way other Penn State fans or other Big Ten fans do. I feel like I respect them. I don't root for them, but I respect them. So it's not a hatred. There's more respect.
I'm sorry. You're giving these serious takes, and you're in this oversized hat dressed up as a leprechaun, and the rest of it. Do us a favor. Be our Vanna White here for a second. Just can you stand up?
This is how I feel.
Yeah. Stand up for a second, just so people can get the whole turnaround.
You see my body?
So the vest is a little small. The jacket is good. Now Hickey is Randy Mossing the camera. A despicable act. And the pants are a little tight, right? You would say the pants are tight on you.
Well, yeah, they're. I guess they're meant for leprechauns. Thankfully, I'm a little taller than your average leprechaun, so maybe that's why they're a little short on the bottom. But yeah. Otherwise,
probably would have been better if he had Santa dress up as a leprechaun.
He would have fit right into this, perfect. Especially the pants, without a doubt.
But what do you do with this, by the way? Are you going to take this home with you?
It's yours if you want it. If you want to wear it on Monday, if you want to wear it, if Notre Dame wins and has a victory parade, you want to go to South Bend,
Hickster,
you can be my guest.
I appreciate how naive you could be in this. I know I've lost a lot of weight, but if it's tight on you, I don't think that's so.
Stu, do you want it, Stu? Stu, you should wear it for the game, Stu.
For the game, the vest looks nice.
Well, you know what?
Wear it for the game.
Maybe Stu, if they win, wouldn't you wear that on the air coming up on Tuesday?
Yeah.
I think Stu would do anything.
Should wear it on Monday.
So you think you're taking Ohio State to win?
I think Ohio State will win, yes.
How dangerously confident are you in
I
Ohio
feel
State?
pretty confident. Not as confident as I did about Penn State beating Notre Dame, but Ohio State's a better team than Penn State, and I think Notre Dame's injuries only got worse. I feel pretty good about Ohio State. Pretty good.
Okay. What kind of score are you thinking?
I think 27-13. I do think Notre Dame's defense will do a decent job at slowing down this high-powered Ohio State offense, kind of like what we saw Texas do. But the receivers are too good. There's too many receivers to cover. And that offensive line where you lose your left tackle in the Penn State game, he's not playing. Your right guard may not play. This defensive line for Ohio State is right now feasting on everybody. I don't know how Riley Leonard and co. get more than one touchdown. 27-13, a little bit lower scoring, but this is a game where I think Ohio State's in full control the entire time. He never really feels in doubt, and they win.
Stu, do you have any follow-ups for Hickey based off of his prediction? Because I think he gave us a lot of good audio right there.
Yeah, so you said, 27-13?
Yes.
You said 27-16 for Penn State Notre Dame.
That's correct.
But you were really, really confident about that one, but
That's
less
correct.
about this one?
Yes. Just because I'm trying to show Notre Dame a little bit of respect because they made me look foolish this time last week. So I have to feel like lower my confidence just a tiny bit, even though Ohio State's a better team, because Notre Dame, I feel like, has defied the odds for a large part of the season. Would you not disagree?
Yeah, I would say so.
So I'm going to show them a little bit more respect for continuing to defy the odds. I think Marcus Freeman's a great coach. They have his guys ready to play. Their pass defense is great. So it's not like, I could sit here and say that, they have no chance.
So you think Penn State is still a better team than Notre Dame?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
I do.
Okay. First off, who won the game?
No, I'm not saying Notre Dame won the game.
But
I think Penn State blew it.
Had no ability to win a big game this year. They haven't won a big game all season. Notre Dame, at least, was able to beat Georgia and then beat Penn State. So doesn't have to go for something?
Yeah, and that's why I said my confidence is a little bit lower.
Okay. Just asking. Asking.
Yeah, I think with how that game played out, I don't think anyone's saying that Penn State was a bad team in that game. They choked it away.
Yeah, the quarterback sucked.
They gave it away.
Quarterback
had it in the bag and gave it away.
Now, I see you're already getting excited for next Penn State season.
I like
Singleton's
the fact
back.
that they have a lot of their key players coming back. I am very excited for that. I am. Aller, 2 running backs. Their defensive end denied Dennis Sutton, who could be probably a first-round pick this time next year. Got some safety help back. Their offensive line, 4 to 5 guys are back. I like the fact that they are running it back or trying to as much as they can.
Okay. Will you fall for Penn State next year?
It
took you a while, but you fell late for them.
I'm optimistic. I am. When you look at Ohio State, what they're replacing, they're losing. Ohio State.
This is like putting the drugs in front of the attic,
Ohio
folks.
State
That's what this
reloads,
is.
right? They don't rebuild, they reload. They have talent on talent on talent. Mm-hmm. But they brought everybody back on their defense this year. Those guys are all going to the NFL after this game. Offensively, they're losing a lot. Despite keeping Jeremiah Smith, they're losing the 2 running backs, losing their quarterback, losing some offensive linemen. Like, the reality is Ohio State's losing a lot to graduation in the NFL draft. So is Oregon. Not saying that Penn State's going to win the Big Ten right now, but I think right now, if you handicap it, I think Penn State should be the favorite.
So Joseph Voorhees in the YouTube chat says, referring to you, or maybe he's referring to me, but I think he's referring to you. This bum is trying to jinx the Ohio State University. Also, Billy Wolf, this is a reverse mush since Hickster is a secret Notre Dame fan. Any response to those allegations?
First of all, like I've said previously, the reverse mush, jinx, whatever, the intentional mush does not work. So if I truly wanted Notre Dame to win, just like, by the way, last week when I wanted Penn State to win, what did I say? Penn State's going to win. It's not, Notre Dame's going to win. Hopefully I'm wrong, and Penn State has no chance to win this game. I told you Penn State was going to dominate, and guess what? I was wrong.
Yeah.
But the intention, if I sat here and said last week, Notre Dame's the better team, Penn State can't win a big game, Notre Dame is still winning the game no matter what I said. And so Ohio State's still winning this game no matter what I say here. There's no intention. The intentional mush does not exist.
Okay. Can I just give you my prediction right now?
Sure.
And I'm subject to change this. This is my one spite pick of the year. I get one spite pick where I could go against my journalistic integrity, whatever that means. And I'm just picking one team because I like them better than the other team. Because I'm with you. I think Ohio State should win the national championship. And it scares me that Ohio State did not play a great game up against Texas and was still able to beat Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And Sark, the play calling, just horrible on second down. Just absolutely abysmal. Makes no sense to basically pitch the ball to the 9 when you're 1 yard away from getting a touchdown. But anyway, I'm just doing a spite pick here. I'll take Notre Dame 23-20 or Notre Dame 27-23, something like that. And it's purely just based off spite. And also, would you agree with this? Let me just ask you this. Because if you line them up pound for pound, Ohio State's a better football team than Notre Dame.
Yes.
Who do you trust more? Marcus Freeman or Ryan Day?
I will say I do trust Ryan Day, with the caveat being as long as Lou Holtz does not appear publicly between now and Monday. That's the formula. So you want a formula to win, and this is, I'll put more on your plate and Samter's plate. Get Lou Holtz on the show.
Oh, that's a good job.
Lou
Way
will
to go.
say,
first smart thing he said in years.
Fifth team is soft. Notre Dame's going to run the ball down their throat. Ohio State's a bunch of softies. And you know what Ryan Day's going to do? He's going to get in his head. He's going to try to run the ball down Notre Dame's throat. It's not going to work. He's going to play right into the Irish's hands. They almost beat him last year with that same philosophy. They could beat him this year. As long as Ryan Day, and the reason why he lost to Michigan is because this guy tried to be Mr. Tough Guy and say, we're not going to win, we're going to out-tough you, lost. If he tries to be Mr. Tough Guy, Notre Dame wins.
Now,
as long as Ryan Day does not try to be Mr. Tough Guy, I trust him more.
Is this actually Lou Holtz? I just searched Lou Holtz. Is this Lou Holtz? That's Lou Holtz.
I think he does a podcast.
This is his Twitter account, and that's you're seeing that verified coach Lou Holtz, 88, College Football Hall of Fame coach, speaker, author, analyst, aspiring golfer, and magician.
He's alive. He speaks. He does media. He's not,
aspiring golfer and magician. Is this a fake account? I don't know.
No, I think it's real.
It's got 170,000 followers. So if someone's doing that, 170,000 followers trying to fake us, fine. He quote tweeted. He put out a video. Ohio State has the talent, but Notre Dame has the heart, the culture, and the defense to win this game. Stay patient, run the football, and trust the process. Notre Dame wins a close one by 3. Remember, we are Notre Dame, and they ain't. Now, to your point about Ryan Day. If Notre Dame doesn't win, it's because we want to preserve Ryan Day's job. I was originally going to be at the game in spirit, but now I'll be dragging my body along as well.
Oh, Lou's going, huh?
He quote tweeted Pat McAfee, what if there is a Coach Holtz sighting at the national championship game? That was a conversation.
I think that should change the betting lines.
Okay. You picked the Broncos to beat the Bills last week.
That's right.
That was your spite pick because you hate the Bills.
No, that was my smart analysis upset pick that unfortunately did not come to fruition after what was a promising first 2 minutes.
Yeah,
that's 7-0. I'm like,
by the
look
way,
at me, genius.
You want to know how we're in Hickey's head about the wrong predictions? I seen 2 tweets from Hickey recently. One was a quote tweet about something. He's like, see, but everyone says I get something wrong. And then the other
when did I say that?
It was like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. I got to go back and find it. I forget what it was, but I was perusing through Twitter and I saw it. And then you were the first person. Bo Nix threw that touchdown. You had the tweets ready to go in the draft.
Bodacious.
you had pictures and tweets ready to go in the draft. So I know where you're going. I know the Hickey playbook. Ravens, Bills. Who do you got this week, brother?
Ravens. Tell me honestly, how are you stopping Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry? How you doing it?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen can't tackle.
Go blow for blow.
That Bills defense, they did a great job stopping the run against Denver. If you can't stop the run, and right now, I mean, they ran right through Pittsburgh. Baltimore did. Ball control, I think, will be in Baltimore's favor. I trust their defense. By the way, the defense, which has been abysmal in terms of stopping the pass, has been a lot better the second half of the year. I like Baltimore. Better team.
All right, so you like Baltimore. Eagles, Rams. Who do you like?
Eagles. Tough matchup for them. This is a tough out. I think it'll be a close game. I like the Eagles, though, at home.
Chiefs, Texans.
Chiefs.
Lions and Commanders.
I like the Lions, but the spread's what, 8.5, 9.5? I like the Commanders to cover. I think Jaden Daniels has success on that secondary that's still banged up and weak for Detroit. I think it's a close game, but I think Detroit wins.
Okay. 2 more things for you, and then we'll let you run. Kevin O'Connell. You think there's any merit here with this contract stuff, with his deal being up at the end of the year and what happened 2 weeks ago?
I mean, there should. No, if you're the Minnesota Vikings, there's no doubt about it. You keep him, you extend him. I think he's still a top 5 coach. He got out-coached by one of the better coaches there in the league in Sean McVay. I still trust him a lot. Now it's just about, he does have to coach better in the playoffs. That is a concern now. 2 years in the postseason, 2 bad losses where both your quarterbacks in both games don't play very well. But I still trust Kevin O'Connell, no doubt about it. You're moving on from Sam Darnold. You absolutely have to keep KOC.
I saw a tweet, by the way, with the Vikings. On December 30th, 2024, Sam Darnold's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. Who tweeted that? Oh, Ryan_Hickey3.
I started the show yesterday when filling in for JR. The 3 hardest words of sports radio, or really anybody has to say. I was wrong.
Easy for you, though. You say it a lot.
I don't know. Still doesn't make it easy.
Give me 3 guesses. Cowboys job. Go. Who gets it?
Kellen Moore, and who cares, honestly? Because Jerry's hiring a yes man.
Hire.
Jerry's hiring a yes man. He's not hiring Deion Sanders. He's hiring someone that's going to take his orders, that's going to play around, or play nice, I should say, when Jerry tries to pretend to be the GM. And so, like, there's no one you can actually say that's a fit for the Cowboys job because all it is just you're Jerry's, like, servant, essentially. Yes, master. You probably say, yes, Mr. Jones. Yes, Mr. Jones. Whatever you say, Mr. Jones. Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy, not distractions. I'd probably say Kellen Moore, he knows what to deal with the Jones family. He's not a threat to the media or Jerry's fame
He's Jason Garrett.
and attention. That's my guess. I can't even give you two more because, honestly, who the hell would sign up for that?
Okay. Now, when we get to the rest of the cycle, I think Ben Johnson's going to be the next coach of the Raiders.
Really?
Yeah. And I think Ben Johnson's starting to become so insufferable. I love watching his offenses, but how selective he's been, he's just looking for the most control, and the Raiders are going to give him whatever he wants.
Why is that insufferable? That's smart. And we see you take a bad job,
Here's why.
You get in trouble. Why not be, with what he has in the situation, why rush to a job that's not good?
But you wait. If he takes the Raiders job, what are you selling me on? Outside that you just got the power. You're in a tough division, and you have no quarterback.
I agree. That's why I don't think he's taking it.
Okay.
I think he's going to the Bears.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
I think he's working with Caleb Williams, that offense they have there. I think he'd be stupid not to, frankly. That or Jacksonville. I would work with Trevor Lawrence, easier division.
I would go to Jacksonville. That's what I would do.
But I'm with you with what do you say? Tom Brady's there. Okay. I would trust him kind of blindly because we don't really know what Tom Brady's like as an exec. Other than that, I'm with you. Like, what the hell are you selling me on? Nothing.
Okay. And last thing, out of these three names, who's most likely? Is this hat starting to itch you, by the way?
I don't know. This thing, I can't keep
what
it on my
happened
head.
to your eye? You have green coming out of your eye.
There we go.
Out of these three names,
I wish I had some gold in here. At least that would make it better.
Who's starting week 1 for the Steelers next year? Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields.
Wow. I will say, gun to my head, I will say Justin Fields.
Okay. I think you should actually bring this leprechaun suit to Atlanta. I think you walk into Magic City, get some lemon pepper Lou wings and that,
That would make me feel a lot better.
Have a few singles with you, you get lucky.
My sorrows would be gone from Penn State. I'll forget about that loss. No doubt about it. Those wings are heard. Just erase your memory.
We're getting blackout Hickey
and whatever else happens.
At a strip club to kind of drink away your pain from Penn State. All come out then?
Maybe I'll have another reaction video predicting a national championship 2025.
That would be something. All righty. Can you just explain one last time why you dressed up as a leprechaun?
Because I said Penn State was going to beat Notre Dame. There's no chance the Irish were going to win. And unfortunately, as we all saw on Thursday night, I was wrong.
And who'd you lose that bet to?
One Zach Gelb.
Okay, thank you. I think my work's done here. I appreciate you taking this public shaming of you.
No problem.
He is Ryan Hot Take Hickey. Hey, that was a whole $26.99 off Amazon. We'll take a timeout. We're coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
You know, I'm a little disappointed, Stu and Hickey. So he took off the vest immediately when the segment ended. And I go, all right, we got to take a picture. So Stu and I, we line up next to Hickey. We take a picture. And then I'm like, oh, we got to take another one. But he already started to undress himself. And I said, can you just put the vest back on and the hat? And he goes, I'm too busy. He goes, I got a show to produce. Now, it's 5:30 p.m. Eastern. What is he been doing all day? He goes, that's a top 6 day. There's a lot of work for me to do. JR comes your way in 30 minutes. You know, I love Hickey. Love him. But I think that was more of Hickey not wanting to put back on the outfit rather than him not having enough time. Come on. What is enough time? Like
45 seconds. Come on.
What do you have to do tonight to produce JR's program? Seriously. Like, Hickey probably already booked 2 guests. You know, they have the top 6 segment. Like, what you need, like, audio or stuff for that? Get a few other audio clips, and that's it. JR's not one of these hosts that needs 10,000 audio clips to do a radio program. He's not someone that, like, is very needy. Like, he's kind of like me. You show up. You talk to producer a little bit beforehand. You know what you're doing. And that's that. There's a lot of other shows around here that if Hickey said, I'd be like, oh, okay, fine. You got to get 4,000 audio clips. You got to make sure the YouTube stream is working. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do this. You got to do that. The idea that he was too busy to put a jacket on and a hat on again and take a photo with us. Come on. What are we doing here, folks? What are we doing here? So, I don't know about you, Stu. I thought it was more painful the second time for him, having to listen to that montage.
Yeah, and especially doing so in the outfit, I think, did not help.
It was like the total humiliation hour. It really was. But I at least give him credit, because there's a lot of other people that would weasel their way out of bets. and would try not to pay off their bets. Did Perloff try to ever weasel out of a bet? Because I saw someone in the YouTube chat, Craig said, at least Hickey pays off his bet in a timely fashion, unlike Perloff. Now, I remember there was one thing with Perloff, Maggie, and EJ that I indirectly got involved in. And Spike, let's be real. I love Spike. Love Spike Eskin. But how he, as someone that is a leader and always has a vision and always has an opinion, how he let Maggie, I think this was last year, where something happened and Maggie's team lost but covered the spread or something like that.
I vaguely remember this, yeah.
And Perloff had to dress up as a Bills fan, Maggie had to dress up as an Eagles fan, and EJ had to dress up as a Patriot fan.
I believe he borrowed one of
used
your
my
jerseys.
jersey.
Yeah,
my Matthew Slater jersey. That's how I indirectly got involved. Maggie lost the bet, though, correct?
Yes, I remember there was like a technicality that the team lost, but
the spread, right?
The spread played a factor in it.
So it's who won the game or didn't. Like, that to me what it is. And how Spike allowed Maggie to weasel her way to make sure that EJ and Perloff were going down with her. That the Titanic was sinking, and there's a life raft there. And Maggie was like, nope, we're not just letting one person go to the life raft. All of us, we have to go down. I didn't love that. Love Maggie. But I thought that was a bad moment. And I thought Spike, right, we're looking for a leader of men in that moment, a leader of men and women in that moment. And Spike just dropped the ball and made everyone just go down with Maggie in that spot and have to wear, I guess, like the rivals team or things like that. Like, what did EJ do? I have to give EJ my Patriot jersey, have him then wear my jersey. It made no sense to me whatsoever. But anyway, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Real quickly, let me just get to this. The NFC North, Stu. How do you look back at it now? Bears disappointing season. Minnesota was the Minnesota of old. I'm surprised we haven't heard from Scott in California this week. Surprised we haven't heard from Scott in California this week. But Minnesota was the Minnesota of old. Good postseason time. And you had the Green Bay Packers not take that next step. The only team that is still there and looks like a strong team, now we'll see if they can survive all these injuries, are the number 1 seed Detroit Lions. You look back at what you thought of the NFC North before the year, and you say what right now?
Obviously better during the regular season than I thought. I thought they would get 3 playoff teams or could get 3 playoff teams. I didn't think the Vikings were going to be that team, though. I thought the Bears had a better chance going into the year to make the playoffs or maybe have 9, 10 wins, just finish outside of the playoff spot. I think the Packers are the one, to me, where I thought they would be in that mix with the Lions and Eagles, and they clearly were not.
In terms of my level of disappointment, I would say the Bears are 1 in that division and the Packers are 2. The Packers need a number 1 wide receiver. I think that's obvious. But where we were at like Thanksgiving, it was, wow, you got 3 potentially Super Bowl caliber teams out of the NFC. And the Packers didn't live up to that height. Minnesota misled us in 2 weeks. It's 2 games changes the whole way we view their season for a team that most didn't even have gone to the postseason before the year start. But the Bears just couldn't get out of their own way. And now we'll see if the Lions could save it. So what was touted as the best division in football for most of the year, is it the best division in football? Because you look back, AFC North, it's just the Ravens. Steelers were frauds. Bengals didn't make the postseason. The Browns stunk. At the AFC West, Raiders stink. But the Broncos impressed a lot of people. The Chargers impressed a lot of people. And you still got Kansas City. I would still say NFC North or AFC West. Who do you think had the better year up until this point right now?
I think the NFC North, because they had 2 teams with, 14-plus wins.
Yeah. I think the NFC North's a better division. The AFC West was more impressive. Because the Chargers and Broncos, you could have told me one of them made the playoffs before the year started. Both of them? Yeah, I didn't see that whatsoever. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Let's take a timeout. Final one of the day. We'll come on back. Got one more segment to play. Update time first. Here is Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, it was evident to Texas that they were ready to move on and hand the quarterback job to Arch Manning. And transition, I should say, is now underway. Quinn Ewers announced his plans to enter the NFL draft as he leaves Texas with an impressive resume, 21 wins as a starter, 2 playoff appearances, and 2 wins, as well as a Big 12 championship. Robert Saleh has drawn some interest in this round of coaching hires. The former Jets head man is on the Cowboys' radar and will meet with the team. Saleh also interviewed for the Jaguars coaching vacancy. Mike McCarthy began his quest for a new job by meeting in person with the Bears, who also interviewed Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. The Celtics are trying to gain ground on the Cavaliers in the East. They're currently 6 games back. The defending champs have had an up-and-down season, and the last week has epitomized that, with Jason Tatum and company alternating wins and losses over the last 4 games.
Funky stretch, I guess. It's impossible to think that every game is going to go exactly how you want it. It's just not the way it goes.
And a minor deal in the NBA today as the Suns acquired Nick Richards from the Charlotte Hornets and a second-round pick for Josh Okogie. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Earlier in the show, we played audio from LeBron James on the New Heights podcast. This was the audio from LeBron James saying he once played pickup hoops with Michael Jordan when LeBron was 16 years old.
I was 16 years old. I was sophomore in high school, and I was able to get on the court alongside. I was on the court with Michael Jordan, Antoine Walker, Penny Hardaway, Ron Artest, Michael Finley, all these guys.
Who guarded you?
Nobody. I was unguardable. Listen, I was 16. I was high school sophomore. I'm busting ass, man. I was nervous. I was nervous as hell, being out there with MJ and the rest of those guys. But I'm
you kidding me?
I was like, I'm about to go crazy, and I did, man.
That's awesome, man.
I did.
I'm busting ass could be a drop, by the way. That used to happen each and every day when there was a certain morning show here many years ago in that producer studio. There was a guy that was letting a few farts loose just throughout the years. Whatever happened to that guy, I don't know. We've never seen him since. That guy, Marash, never even know how to remember his name. But I did wonder, I go, that's the first time I heard that story. Not the Marash part. I'm talking about LeBron James. And I go, that there has to be something else out there if that's a true story. This can't be the first time he's ever shared that. So one of the names that he mentioned was Ron Artest. Well, Ron Artest was on Podcast P. That's Paul George's podcast. And this is Ron Artest recalling LeBron James as a teenager going up against Michael Jordan in that pickup game.
Everybody knew who he was. He was already famous. I'm like, all right, cool. I want to see what he got. Mm-hmm. And he was cooking. He was 15 or 16, posting, getting to the basket. And I'm like, this is going to be a huge issue. Right. And for sure it was.
3 more years, huh?
3 more years. He right there. When I saw that, it motivated me. I'm like, I got to go to work. I mean, ain't no, he coming in the league cooking. I was not like that at 15.
How old were you?
I'm 5 years older than LeBron. So I was 20 and maybe going on 21.
So you knew right away. Yeah, he
could have won pro right then, honestly.
Yeah, really?
100%.
That's kind of crazy, Stu, when you listen back to that. There's, an age gap. LeBron, 15, 16, whatever. Ron Artest, 20, 21, 22, in that range. And just Ron Artest seeing how good LeBron James was at that age and how better he could actually get made him work even harder is really a wild story when you kind of look back at it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you hear these stories, and like I said earlier, sometimes they get a little fabricated, but I mean, at 15 or 16, can you imagine? Like, that doesn't even seem real. That's like 8th grade, freshman, high school, like that. It gets like, nah, that's just ridiculous. I know it's LeBron James, but it still seems like too good to be true, if you will.
So this was 25 years ago, right? LeBron is 40, 30, 20. Yeah, so that'd be about 25 years ago. It's a shame that this didn't happen like LeBron wasn't 15, 3 years ago. Like, there could be footage of this. But everyone now has a cell phone in their hand, and there would be so much footage of this. And I don't know with Michael being there and all the other big names, if there were cameras that were really allowed. But I would love to see a video of LeBron just absolutely just dominating Michael Jordan. Not that I have any care in that debate, and I think Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time, but how passionate people are of this debate where they make Michael Jordan to be the greatest and LeBron's a bum, or the other way, LeBron James is the greatest and Michael's a bum. It's kind of like politics, really, if you think about it. One's a Democrat, one's a Republican. If you love your guy, you're the bad, and the other person is the worst person in the world, and vice versa. Could you imagine, though, for like the staunch Michael Jordan believers, if you just see 15-year-old LeBron James just blowing past Michael Jordan or yamming in his face? That would be wild. Shep once, actually. I remember Shep came into our studio 2 years ago, and he overtook the show with an opinion about LeBron James, and it blew up. For an hour, I had to take phone calls about Michael versus LeBron, and he totally overtook the entire show because he had such it wasn't, I don't want to say a crazy hot take, but he was just so adamant that Michael's the guy. And personally, I think Michael's better than LeBron. But he just went, how Shep gets with the NBA and everything. Just such a firm opinion, strong opinion. And for an hour, and it's the radio I hate the most, LeBron versus Michael. I hate it the most. That or Brady versus Belichick. I hate it the most. And I had to take phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call. But it would be kind of funny because I'm envisioning Shep right now and how much he supports Michael Jordan over LeBron, which once again, no issue with. If you then saw that person, that P1, have to deal with the video of a 15-year-old LeBron James just blowing past Michael, or you remember Jason Tatum a few years ago when he dunked in LeBron's face? You just see LeBron James just dunking in Michael Jordan's face. It would be pretty fun. All right, anyway, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Alex in Dallas says, Zach, who do you think will be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Nick Harris joined us earlier. He covers the Cowboys for the Star Telegram. And for the Fort Worth Star Telegram. And he joined us and he said the three names that he thinks will get the job. If you take a guess. He said Pete Carroll. He also then did go on to say Aaron Glenn. And the third name that he gave was Kellen Moore. I think it will be Kellen Moore. That's who I think will get the job. However, if I, Zach Gelb, was Jerry Jones, and you put me inside the shoes, the body of Jerry Jones right now, I would have an honest conversation with myself first, and I would relinquish my GM title for two names. Actually, three names. Bill Belichick. Call UNC. Call Bill. See if he's interested. Then after that, Pete Carroll. And if I had to give you a third name, Belichick, Pete Carroll, if I'm getting an established guy, I don't think they would do so. I'd call the Steelers and see if you could trade for Mike Tomlin. Those would be the three guys, and the only three guys I'd be willing to hire. Pete Carroll, Mike Tomlin, if you could pull that off via trade, and then Bill Belichick. And I would be open to Ben Johnson. I just don't think Ben Johnson is going to take the Cowboys seriously because of the way that Jerry Jones just controls that entire organization. But that's the way that I would approach it right now. And this is the Dallas Cowboys, for crying out loud. We gotta get these big brands back to their standards. Like the Steelers standard right now is unacceptable. The Cowboys standard right now is unacceptable. The Raiders standard right now is unacceptable. There are big brands here. And too many times, I'm the guy on the radio that has to get in front of the microphone and just verbally undress these teams. And we don't talk about the Raiders ever positively. The Cowboys, a few years, right? 11, 12 wins, but then postseason time, LOL. And the Steelers, 9 to 12 wins, 2011, 2015 Cincinnati Bengals. That's what you guys are. It's embarrassing. It's pathetic. And you know how I know the truth hurts? I've seen some people, since I said that they're the 2011, 2015 Cincinnati Bengals, who's this guy? Do anything for clicks. And then there's a lot of comments on it, but he's right. He's right. He's 100% right on his analysis. Because that standard in Pittsburgh used to be about Lombardi's. Now it's not. I texted with the former Steelers player. It wasn't Willie Colon. Because I know we just had Willie on, so that's why I said it. But I texted with the former Steelers player who we all know pretty well. I'll say his name. Bryant McFadden. B-Mac. We love B-Mac. And I texted with B-Mac during the Steelers-Ravens game. And I go, this is rough to watch, man. He goes, Steelers used to be about winning Super Bowls. They're not about that anymore. And he just wrote back, this is embarrassing. So he said, text me. He goes, this is embarrassing to watch. Now, I don't think Brian McFadden is advocating for Mike Tomlin to get fired. I don't think that's the case. But kind of shows you, guy that's won before. It's embarrassing. Willie Colon, look how fired up he got. The Jets kind of expect that. Right? Other team to play for. Steelers, you don't expect that to be the way. All righty, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Appreciate our leprechaun, Ryan Hot Take Hickey, for joining us in studio today. If you want to look back at Hickey in a leprechaun suit, just go to YouTube. All of our shows are archived. Unless if we do something of a copyright violation where they take it down, which, sometimes happens. Not that we know that knowingly. We do that unknowingly, and then we find out, that this, violated that, whatever. Also, big thanks to Nick Harris for joining us. Really good insight on the Cowboys coaching search. Samter, Stu, thank you. Ack, thank you as well. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. And coming up on the extravaganza tomorrow, Glover Quinn is going to stop by. And I believe Danny Cannell as well. Yes, Danny Cannell too. So we'll get closer and closer to divisional round weekend and also the national championship game on Monday. All righty, talk tomorrow, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Have a great Wednesday. Peace.